Hey, I'm your host, Anthony Tank Mansfield. And with me this week is
Jaimie Filer.
And
Eric Tragedy.
And this is What You Into.
What you into? What you into?
Listener, what's up? We're taking refuge in the basement as usual. I'm not sure where we're at right now in the Halloween thing. Either this is the kickoff episode to the Halloween thing, or it's somewhere in the middle. We'll get to it. What we also need to get to is two returning guests in the basement today. Jaimie, welcome, as always.
Howdy.
Thank you so much for co-hosting this entire month of spooky season with me. I appreciate you for doing that.
The spookiest co-host. Woo! Hello. I'm just going to fuck it up. Never mind.
Why didn't you dress up for this?
I totally dressed up. I wore a Return of the Living Dead t-shirt that no one that's listening to this can see. But I did.
I was really hoping you were going to sexy co-host it, and you
as Leona Quigley of Return of the Living Dead. Yeah.
Yes,
later.
You could have been like Darcy the Mail Girl every week, a new series of hot costumes you could have wore. Yeah, or you could have just went with a classic Vampira. We'll work on this.
Well, it's going to be, it's a work in progress.
It is.
Work in progress.
We're learning. But yeah, dude, but seriously, thank you for jumping in and thank you for agreeing to be the co-host for the month. I'm looking forward to this whole thing. And I'm also looking forward to having Eric back. What's up, dude? How's it going?
All right.
Welcome to the Double Deuce. This is your second time on the podcast.
Woo!
So you are now officially inducted into the world of Roadhouse here on the show. How you been, man? What's going on?
I've been great. I only get back here to Cincinnati once a year at best, and I've already hit my favorite record store, Shake It in Northside. And
solid record store.
Spent a lot of time talking to JB and Darren there, who I used to work with at La Rosa's back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And I like coming here because it's like a real city, and like I live in the middle of nowhere, Vermont, and it's like Cowtown,
Well, that's what we're known for: the class, the culture, the progressiveness of Cincinnati, Ohio, a city of the future, a city on the move.
I like Cincinnati. We're kind of like a real city. That's the best description ever.
We're every other fucking Midwestern city.
We're getting there.
We discovered murals and we have breweries and food halls.
Lots of them. Every fucking place.
Us, Milwaukee,
Wonderful.
Cleveland, Columbus, Indiana. It's all interchangeable.
I think I mentioned this on the last time I was on, but like my scooter club here is called the 10-Year Lates because it comes from a Mark Twain quote about when the world ends, I want to be in.
Yep.
We'll talk about when the world ends, but when the world ends, I want to be in Cincinnati because everything happens 10 years late there. And that's kind of how I feel about like Cincinnati is it's like, but it's still ahead of what's going on in Vermont, which is trapped in like the 1960s or something,
It's true. When you think about it, America really is a multiverse.
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's different dimensions.
There's a lot of different flavors in America.
Yeah.
Yeah. North Dakota is not Miami, Florida.
You're not wrong.
Is
sir.
not New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's do this real quick because we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Let's get plugs out of the way real quick. Listener, you're going to find me at Neil to No One on Instagram. Just go there. My link tree's there. Everything else will come from there. Jaimie, we can find you on IG at Jaimie_Filer. And Eric, we got you on IG at Geek Channel 8. That's with the number 8, not spelled out. And also your podcast, Geek Channel 8. What's going on with the show, man? What are you guys doing right now? What's the current arc?
So the current arc is one of my co-hosts, Johanna Evans, is a big James Bond fan. So we do mini arcs of James Bond, and right now we are doing a lead up to Live and Let Die.
Sick.
And Live and Let Die was one of the earliest in the book order, which was our original plan to do these in the book order. And that all got screwed up by the Daniel Craig movies. But if you don't know Live and Let Die, it was the James Bond franchise attempt to make a blaxploitation film.
Interesting.
So first we go into the background of Roger Moore. So we did like the old 60s TV show The Saint, and then we did a film he did called The Man Who Haunted Himself. And then we got into blaxploitation. The two that are out currently are Shaft and Shaft's Big Score. And then next it'll be Live and Let Die.
Nice, man. Jaimie, are you a Bond guy?
I am. Yeah, I enjoy James Bond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, he's schmarmy, you know. They're funny. I enjoy them more when they're Sean Connery and Roger Moore ones are probably my two favorite Bonds, just for the fact of it's more of like cartoon. That's how I appreciate it. The more realistic ones that have recently came out, I like watched maybe one and I was kind of like, well, I'm good with these. These are not my thing.
Yeah, I
like cartoons.
I'm with you to this extent where like I grew up whenever the Bond movies were on TBS, my dad would always watch them and I'd watch them with him. And the ones that stood out to me or the ones that I really enjoyed was the weird one where there was like I think they were in New Orleans, there was like a voodoo gang or something.
That's it. That's Live and Let Die.
That's hell yeah, dude.
So listen to the next one when we come out with it.
That movie's sick. They got that sweet boat racing scene.
Yeah, we talk a lot about boat racing.
Yeah, that movie was great, and I also really like Moonraker because of how weird it is. It's sci-fi. Jaws is in
flying
it.
around on like astronaut outfits.
Funny you
lasers.
should mention Moonraker, which is that is the one that we're going to follow up Live and Let Die with.
Boom!
We've already recorded it, and the thing that I always read the books and then watch the movies. I read the book and I went back, and it's really interesting because Ian Fleming was like warning about multimillionaires, which would be billionaires today, like taking control of space first, and now we got like Elon Musk and all that shit going on. It's like he was like warning about them being like super villains in the 1950s.
You need a tremendous amount of money, which equals power, will corrupt you and make you do dumb and horrible shit. Wild!
It's a new story arc, but I think it's one that will take off.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you could really build some stories around that one.
Wild. The only good rich person's Uncle Scrooge. That's just my opinion, but it's the only good one.
Batman. He's like rich.
I mean, Batman could have just like put the money into Gotham and like maybe build out the ghettos a little bit and, you know, helped some people with their mental problems. But
what would you do?
Like, I'm going to put a bat suit on, beat some ass.
You would be Batman.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, could you open some soup kitchens and maybe help with some kind of addiction rehabilitation programs? Sure. Or could you have a fucking jet car?
I mean, to be fair, though, Joker doesn't care either way. So you got to have a Batman to punch him in the face. And I mean, Catwoman in a leather suit. I need to say more.
I just hope at some point Gotham does get universal health care because the number of like just random ass dudes that don't have like any martial arts backgrounds have been crippled by Batman has got to be at an astronomical level.
230-pound man just falling at least 10 feet on top of you is not going to be a good day.
No.
Physics.
No, you're going to drive a van with a blow tube for the rest of your life. Yeah. Like that, Batman's fucking dudes up.
Yeah. Yeah. No argument here.
All right, fair enough. Well, speaking of people getting fucked up, let's talk about the reason we're all here today. Guys, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, George A. Romero, I love this shit. When people talk about trilogies and people talk about Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, my trilogy is this. Like, I love the George A. Romero original trilogy of Night, Dawn, and Day. Like, it's so, and then as we talked about what we could do this episode about, and you guys ran into the idea, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. So I'm gushing. Why did you guys agree to this? Like, why Romero?
So I think I have taught screenwriting before, and I always tell my students that monster movies are not about monsters. They're about people. And there should be a story there. You should have something to say. It's like, I can't tell you how many people I know, a lot of my students, a lot of people coming up, they're like, oh, I'm going to make a zombie film. And I'm like, well, what's it about? And they're like, oh, it's going to be really cool. And the zombies have taken over this place and blah, blah. And I'm like, no, but what's it about? What is the story really about underneath there? And Romero, he's not subtle about it. He has something to say with each of his films. And he expresses that with zombies, and that's why I like it. And I want to make a little disclaimer here. I'm using zombies because everybody uses zombies, but they're not zombies. They are ghouls. And in fact, the word zombie is only used one time in Dawn, And I'll talk about that when we get to that film. So I use the term under protest, but since we're going to be saying zombies, well, I'll say zombies. But the real zombie films are like White Zombie and I Walked with the Zombie and, I Eat Your Skin and, Serpent in the Rainbow. Like corpses reanimated by voodoo. That's zombies. These are ghouls. But, all right, off my soapbox.
Listener, he literally just tucked the soapbox back in with the hand gesture once he was done with that.
And done.
And
We will also call them the undead as well. Jaimie, what about you, man? Why Romero?
Why Romero? You know what? I think one of the things that's interesting as a person who I feel like I love horror movies. I've always been involved in something with horror and things like that. Romero is actually one of my, and this is going to break probably hearts. He's one of my least favorite directors. But at the same time, as much as he's one of my least, I totally respect what he does and enjoy it. And so it was like, I want to appreciate it for what it is. But in the hall of like people who I idolize their movies, he's actually one of the lower of the bar, for that. So, but at the same time, again, like when you're lower the bar, but it's still like, no, your movies are fucking amazing. That's a good bar to be at, So when you brought that up, it was just, and they're interesting topics to talk about. And it's like, it's funny is like, I spent the whole week when we were talking about doing this thinking about when I was introduced to each movie.
I think that's an important thing too.
Yeah, and it's an interesting, because there's like almost a 5 to 8 year difference, even though they pretty much were all made by the time I was, not even a teenager yet. There's still a large gap in between viewings of them and how that affects your enjoyment of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I also have things to talk about when these were released and where I was and how I saw them.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of boring because they're all at the same time, but yeah.
Okay, well, while we're here, let's talk about it. I was kind of in that same way. The first time I saw these movies, I was early high school, probably freshman or sophomore year. Heard of Night of the Living Dead, and so went out and tracked it down because that was after I was starting to see things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien and all that Halloween. So it was like, well, this is natural that at some point I see this as well. And at first, it's kind of got it's black and white, like it's probably going to be boring, and that was totally not the case. I was captivated the entire time, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is great!" And then soon after that, it was dawn, and then it was day. And as soon as I had them on VHS, and I just watched them on the VCR in my room, all the way through high school, and then in college. That was the primary time that I was introduced to these films, and what the age I was.
Yeah, I was definitely I was still trick-or-treating when I saw Night of the Living Dead, because that's how I saw it. It was playing on cable TV like every 25 minutes during Halloween season. And I think it was like Halloween night or whatever, I came home and it was on. And at that time, I was very lucky to have a dad who was a monster kid and who raised me watching all the, Universal films and old school films. So when I saw black and white, I just assumed it was one of those films, and probably nobody... I don't know if, a young kid would have been questioned whether or not he should be watching it or not, but it was just allowed to be watched because it was black and white and nobody thought anything. And then much later, like high school, I watched Dawn, and then Day. I was in my 20s.
Nice.
So
How old are you?
45.
Okay. So for me, I hadn't seen any of them until... So here's the thing. The first one came out before I was born. Mm. Second one came out when I was a child. And not only that, but Dawn was unrated. And so even if it was a possibility to see it, it wouldn't have showed here. I don't think it showed in Cincinnati because we had a fascist Hamilton County sheriff at the time. And so if it wasn't, if it's anything that was not an R or, R or less, it would not show in any theater except maybe way out in the boonies somewhere. So I couldn't even see it. But by the time Day came out, that was around the time I was in my mid-teens. And that was also around the time I was into punk stuff. And, that was, it was with that group of friends that for some reason, when I think of horror stuff, it always appeals to, you think of it as, the genre of music I think of as metal because, Ozzy and all that going way, way back. But horror has always appealed to punk kids, and I think it's because it's the outsider thing, good horror movies, the stuff that's all the directors you can name, James Whale and Todd Browning and, Ken Russell and, Wes Craven, all of their movies are about the outsider, the freaks, and so I saw it with that crowd, and as soon as I saw it day first, I'm like, okay, there are two films that lead up to this. Let's go back and watch the other ones, And so I saw them out of order, but then I've watched them. I don't like to wear a movie too thin, so I think I've watched this trilogy once a decade since the 80s. So that probably once in the 80s, once in the 90s, once in the 2000s, once in the 2010s, and now this time in the 2020s, back to back to back. Yeah. Now it's hard not to see Night a gazillion times because because we'll talk about that. It's in the public domain, so it's on everywhere. All the time. You can't escape it.
Everybody.
But I did see it. I did get to see it a couple of years ago when there was the restoration by the Museum of Modern Art, and that went on tour, and I got to see it on the big screen. And
Nice.
that rocked. Yeah.
I got to see it on the big screen my first year of college because the whole deal where they could just show it, they didn't have to pay anybody anything. So yeah, I was like, all right, cool. I'm getting to watch this now. And then soon you and I are going to be up in Middletown for October. Is it October 12th? I believe so. Yeah. Well, listener, pretty sure it's October 12th. But it's a thing our buddy Chris is putting on up there where he's working with a local theater. They're working with his high school students, and they're going to end up like doing a showing of it in there as well.
It's October 12th.
12th. Yes. Woof, look at that.
Good job.
Me and numbers right there.
Good job, bud.
Rarely do I win that battle, but today numbers, fuck you.
Yeah. You showed them.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, yeah, let's, all right. Well, now that I've got done yelling at numbers, now I got to reset my brain. Okay. Speaking of numbers, 1968, this is when this film comes out. Very modest budget, just over $100,000. And it goes on to make a box office in the millions above that. Getting into the back end of it, George A. Romero and John A. Russo working together. Russo came up with the concept of the recently dead cannibals. And then later on, they have a falling out and they go their separate ways.
Well, so I read Russo's book. When I was getting into filmmaking, there are two books that I read because they were by independent people. One was the writing and creating of the script, and that was John Russo's book, which I forget its name. And the other was Robert Rodriguez's book, Rebel Without a Crew. Mm-hmm. And when I read John Russo's book, I learned a lot. And forgive me, I'm going from reading this in the early 90s. So I could be wrong on something here. But my recollection was it didn't even start that way. They didn't know what it was going to be. There was something about teenage aliens or something like that.
From the stuff that I was reading today, it was originally going to be kind of a sci-fi film, and the aliens were attacking, and there was teenage rods. This is back when everybody had the hot rods, and there was a whole teenage alien hot rodders.
Yeah, so there's a couple references.
There's a lot of
so it's like sci-fi Grease.
Yeah. I think Romero
with more aliens and less dancing.
Yeah, I think Romero wrote to a certain point, and then he took over after that, and had to really change a lot of what Romero was.
Yeah, and so there's even a few little sci-fi elements that are mentioned in Night.
Yep.
But it never comes up. But I think what really influenced Russo is Matheson's novel I Am Legend, which we all know because there's been a Will Smith movie and all that. But honestly, the first adaptation of I Am Legend was called The Last Man on Earth.
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, yeah. Soon to be on your body. So that film, they call them vampires. But in all practical ways, they are ghouls. They don't bite people on the neck or anything in that. They act... It's kind of the rough draft. If you watch it, it looks like the rough draft for Night of the Living Dead.
Nice.
Yeah.
It came out about 5 years earlier, 4 or 5 years earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely been around that time. But it's the whole house surrounded by ghouls, and
yeah.
The ghouls did talk. That was the one thing. They would always be like, "Come out."
Yeah. Did they talk in the movie though?
I think they did. Because,
did they? Yeah.
Because there's I think that there was it's been a long time. That's one of the first Vincent Price movies I've ever watched. I have it on Blu-ray. I should watch it again. But I think it was one of the characters that knew him when everybody was alive, non-ghouls, is kind of the head talking, antagonist to Vincent Price's character. And he's constantly begging him to come out of the house at
Yeah,
night.
that movie is it anyone that's a fan of the Dead trilogy here should go back and watch it, but be prepared. It's a bit of a slog because it's not made by a master filmmaker like Romero. So I still remember there's one scene where there's a zombie, a vampire, whatever they call them, the living dead, and it's chasing after someone, and it like has to cross about a football field. I think it might literally be a football field, and they stay on this one shot as it walks all the way across the football
Going to get
field.
there. It's going to get there. Yeah.
They're building the terror very slowly. So we'll talk cultural impact here in a little bit, but I think while we're here, we should definitely talk about this being in the public domain. So, which is a major thing where due to a copyright error, it now exists in public domain. Anybody can use it. You don't got to pay any royalties to anybody. But it seems like that also helped it in a way because it did create a wide distribution where this thing got passed around and so many people saw it. So what's your guys' stance on it? Like, do you think that in the long run this has helped it, or do you think that they're losing out on millions of dollars because of this?
Well, before we talk about that, since I know this is fresh in your mind, we should probably talk about how it got in the public domain to begin with.
Yeah, it had, from what I understood, is once the film was done, edited, they put it on the roll. They took it, I believe, to New York, was the first showings of it. This was also like I think this was literally in the month that Martin Luther King is shot and killed.
Holy shit.
The Democratic, when was the cops that beat a bunch of Democrats?
The DNC convention.
Yeah,
in
like
Chicago.
all of this was kind of like within a very quick few months of this. So this movie had so much impact that, again, as much as we understand that impact today, watching it then would have been a very different thing, I feel, in a theater. But the name of it was Night of the Flesh Eaters.
Eaters.
Flesh Eaters. And for whatever reason, they decided Flesh Eaters. There was another film that had that name. And so they said, you got to get rid of it. So they decided to change it to Dead. So if you watch the movie, from what I was reading, and when they do the title card, the deal is that to have your copyright, you have to have it stated who copyrighted it, the name and that, whatever, show up in the beginning of the film. Well, they just took out the Flesh Eater and just put a Dead. And when they put Dead, they forgot to put the other comment.
Shit.
So it's a little more complicated than that because copyright law has changed a whole bunch over the years. And there was only a few years, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, maybe at the most 10 years, where the law was you had to have the copyright notice on it to be copyrighted. It had to have a little C circle. Nowadays, it doesn't need that.
Yeah.
Like it's copyright at the moment of creation, right? And before that, it didn't have to have that. It was just in that narrow hole. And this movie happened to be made in one of those years where it needed to have the copyright notice to be copyrighted. And and then when they changed the title card, they accidentally left it out, and boom, it falls in the public domain.
Yeah. And from what I understand too, like I said, like the font actually, something came off on the font, so they're like you can kind of notice it. I've never paid enough attention to catch it, which sucks because I feel like fonts are something I should be noticing better, especially in horror films. But yeah, apparently that you can tell that's when they decided to change the name.
As far as impact goes, I'm sure it's helped the film. It also is kind of annoying because every time there's a movie on and they want to show a clip of something else, it's always Night of the Living Dead. And it's not only always that, it's always I'm coming to get you, Barbara.
So
it's always that
is.
clip.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I definitely think that it helped the film. I mean, there are so many movies of that time that were coming out that were really good movies that just nobody talks about and or knows or cares about, There's an amazing movie that actually has a lot about like the idea of women's roles in the 1950s called I Married an Alien, and you never hear of that movie. And it's like really good. It makes you think about like what was put on women of that time, like expected out of them. And it's about her marrying a literal alien. And again, it's a very pivotal thing, and it talks about culture. Never hear about that movie because it's copyrighted and somebody doesn't want to put that on a nice 4K blue or stream it so no one knows about it.
Yeah, in the long term of the film, I kind of feel like it's a mixtape that will just go on.
Yeah.
That it's just something that, the people that are associated with it, the money that would have come in from that, it would have made or break them either way. But the impact on society in terms of where this thing pops up at and how easy it is to get a hold of, and if you have if you want to host a movie night or something, you can have this, and it's just going to go on forever because of it, just because you can always pull this.
To be fair, too, because of that opportunity, at least it did give an opportunity to make the other movies off of that, and hopefully, finances and things like that, But unfortunately, that one, it's a freebie for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
as far as the creators,
Yeah, the creators, I feel bad for them because it's by far their most successful film. It's in the National Register, it's been there. I think it was the first modern horror film, it may be the first horror film actually that got inducted into the National Film Archive.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you guys think about Pittsburgh being one of the continual things? Because as we start out here, this is like it becomes a through line through all these movies. Is they take place in Pennsylvania, or the day does, and it takes place in Florida, but in reality, it was shot in Pennsylvania in a mine. So what do you guys think? Could this exist in another city in America, or is Pittsburgh and the Romero series just tied together?
You want to take it, or do you want me to take it?
I'm gonna let you take that.
Okay,
I'm gonna think about it.
I think it could take place anywhere in America, and that was its intent. That it could be any place USA, and the Pittsburgh area maybe they thought had that feel. I liked it because I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are like clones of each other. Mm-hmm. They're like they're sister cities on the same river, and like they look so much alike. So that when I looked at it, unlike so many films I saw that were shot in Southern California, that did not look like the environment around me, this looked like it would be happening right outside my window.
Yeah.
So that was one big thing. And then the second thing is, and I wanted to jump in on this as a filmmaker, is the impact that it had, because we are in the heartland of zombie filmmaking and low budget stuff. Really, this film is important as independent film also, because it was made outside the Hollywood system, and it gave people in this part of the world like, hey, I could make a film and it could be successful and stuff like that. And really it inspired people like J.R. Bookwalter, who became sort of the king of, I think he did The Dead Next Door. He did some other stuff. But he was the king of like straight to video stuff. He rode that wave, and that inspired other filmmakers who I was fortunate enough to work with. And it sort of radiated out from the Pittsburgh area. So a lot in Pennsylvania, a lot in Ohio. And it really kind of birthed this idea of like and then the guy who made, what was that one in Kansas? Great. See, this is my problem when you get old. I can never remember this stuff. Carnival of Souls. So those two kind of were the ones that showed that you could make, a low budget film in the heartland if you had a good story and like, and you really shot it well, it could be successful.
Yeah, and to tag on what you said earlier, I too appreciate like it being shot and taking place in a place that looked like where I would live at, and also just being a movie where it wasn't New York or it wasn't Chicago, because there was a time when like just kind of really larger cities were focused on, and then where it was the middle of nowhere, but smaller cities didn't get that kind of shine, and so it did make it its own unique thing where it's like, oh shit, I know where this is at, and it's a very specific spot, but at the same time it's very open to where it could be anywhere.
Yeah, I think one thing too is location is such an important part of narrative that for a film like this, which again is like kind of having certain statements about like race and class and political structure and things like that, it is kind of more interesting to have it in a middle of America where ironically, I feel like most people in the middle of America are not necessarily the biggest fans of the coastlines of America. So in a weird way, it is kind of like having a conversation with that public as compared to once you put something in like LA, there's a certain attitude that you feel like no matter what the person is acting like, you feel like, oh, they're a person from LA. There's a certain way to that. Or if you put a character in New York, well, yeah, that's a bad motherfucker, immediately. Or there's certain things, but when you put it in the middle of America, you can kind of play with that characterization of what that is. So I could definitely see that as a strong point to the film. But I agree with you. It's like it could be anywhere. Like these, they're supposed to be normal people. Like wherever you're from, you're supposed to be empathetic towards them. So I think it works for that.
Nice. All right, so before we get into cultural impact, I actually kind of want to save that for the end. So if you're a person that's never seen Night of the Living Dead and you are listening to this podcast, we'll talk about that at the end so it all comes together for you. But honestly, with all these episodes, spoilers, the whole thing is spoilers. Also, you've had decades to see these movies. If you haven't seen them yet, I don't know.
They're everywhere. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Check them out. All right, so the movie starts with Barbara and Johnny in a rural Pennsylvania cemetery. They're visiting their father's grave, and while they're there, Johnny is being a dickhead because they see this guy staggering around, and he does this whole like coming to get you, Barbara thing. That I'm on board to see Johnny get it. He's just annoying me just from the jump of this film, and he's coming to get you, Barbara. I mean, just how do you not want to punch that guy?
Yeah.
I think that even before that, you see the car driving all these like rural roads that lets you know they're so far from like help, you know, like, but yeah, he's kind of a dickhead. And it's, I like how, and this is true of all Romero films, it starts in media res. Like, there's no, like with modern zombie movies, they got to show you what caused the zombies to come about, and there's the backstory, and then there's like, it takes about, we wouldn't get to this first zombie attack until like 30 minutes into the film, 20-30 minutes. This happens, boom, right from the get-go, zombies are here. We're not going to tell you how that happened. That doesn't matter. They're already attacking.
Romero's like, we named the film Night of the Living Dead. Like, it's in the fucking title. Like, if you see this movie, you're going to see Living Dead.
Yeah.
And boom, instantly, there it is with this attack in the cemetery.
And I think the black and white 60mm film really works for this because obviously we talked about it's not going to have the bigger budget that some of the later films in this trilogy had. So the look of the undead in black and white, I think if it was in color and you saw they were wearing blue makeup or something, it wouldn't work as well. But in this, you're just like, yeah, that does look like he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also gives it like, you feel like you're watching news footage the whole time.
Yeah.
And it is, and especially at this time of just Vietnam, everything else going on, like the news footage is not, it's getting that PTSD effect starts kicking in, especially like, even for, I was about ready to call them boomers, but that would not be a boomer. The generations that came back from the World Wars and Korea War and things like that, that's how they were getting their information at movie theaters and black and white film showing war. So in black and white, it really does work to give you like, Jesus Christ. Like this is, I'm watching someone die on a movie. It has a different effect, I think, than if it's a blue guy walking up and biting somebody. So it definitely has that good effect to that. Works for it.
Yeah, it really does, and they play with that throughout the film with like emergency broadcasts and stuff too, where like it does feel like this is like a real thing that's happening in real time, and this is almost like a documentary of what's happening.
Yeah, and a lot of the cameras that were used in TV stations, they were tethered, so when news reporters went to the field to gather stuff, like in Vietnam and stuff like that, they were shooting on 16mm film. So it matches that look, so they would develop that and it would go straight to the studio and then they would show it on TV. Yeah. And
am I right? I think they were filming the movie on weekends and still going and filming,
commercials.
Yeah. So even using the same film stock and everything else. So it is that kind of like weirder quality that just add to it, I felt.
It would be hilarious if one of the reels from Night of the Living Dead got in with something they recorded for a commercial and they got sent to the company and like some guys like, boss, this is the new auto commercial we got. I think this is really going to bring the customers in this fall. Go Steelers. And then it's just like fucking Night of the Living Dead appears.
No one is buying our tires ever again.
You know that's happened. Somewhere, someone made a movie and the footage got mixed up.
Yeah.
You know it's happened.
100%. Yeah. Maybe not with this film, but definitely somewhere in the world of filmmaking, that is definitely happened. I'm gonna say multiple times, just by the law of averages, and it'd be fucking hilarious.
Everyone that works those jobs, they do it for the money. It's so mercenary. They take that gear out on the weekends and they shoot whatever the fuck they want. And so yeah, guaranteed.
So after the attack, Barbara freaks out because she just sees Johnny gets killed in front of her by the first zombie that we see on screen. She gets out of there, and then she finds a farmhouse, goes inside, finds a half-eaten rotten corpse. She's like, what the fuck? She's freaking out. Ben rolls up in a truck and just immediately action star. Like, Ben is just fucking shit up. And then he's like, Barbara is just... She's lost it. Like from the beginning of this movie, Barbara's just panicked and just in a fever dream.
Well, can we talk about how the fact that she's like one of the worst drivers ever? Like, because that pissed me off. It's like, okay, all right. So one of the things I appreciate about Romero's films, and this gets a little into the impact of it, is that like the white male is not the center of things. It is women and people of color, but she's not a good example of that. You think it's going to be her, and then Ben eventually rolls in and takes charge. But yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that because, Barbara is she is a puddle of a human being immediately in this situation. And Ben is doing everything he can to be a nice guy to keep this all together.
Yeah.
And this is a thing with this film that people point out is like Ben is a black dude. He is the main character and he is the man. You are automatically cheering for him. And this is a film that's taking place in the 60s, which is just something you're not really seeing at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So since I just mentioned how we're doing Shaft right now on our show, I need to mention that you did get black leads if it was something like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Or, Harry Belafonte or someone like that. But it was always sort of the white black guy, very. And you didn't get a lot of black action heroes and stuff like that. And in fact, really the first blaxploitation film that people talk about is Sweetback's Badass Song. That doesn't come out till 1970. I make the argument that Cotton Comes to Harlem is really the first, but that was 1969. I believe this is 1968, right? So this predates even that.
So yes, this comes out in 1968.
Yeah. So it's really kind of at the forefront of that. We haven't even gotten to our black action heroes and black horror movies, Blackenstein and all that kind of stuff yet. So yeah, it's significant. And as things play out, we'll see just how significant. And yeah, it can't be divorced from the stuff that's going on with the civil rights movement and everything else that's going on at the time.
So after Ben kind of gets everything locked down, he finds a lever action rifle. So feeling pretty good. And then they come and meet the other people who are in the house. So it's Harry, Helen, and Karen. So Harry is the dad, Helen's the mom, Karen's the kid. Karen was bit, and their car was flipped by the ghouls, which I think is kind of interesting because I don't really think in day or dawn of ghouls
smart enough to superhuman strength to flip a car.
Yeah, flip a car.
Yeah.
But that's happening here.
Well, people can flip a car. I mean, regular humans can flip a car if there's enough of them, I've seen cop cars get flipped. And I think that maybe if they wanted, think of it like you don't have a can opener and there's food in this can. You're trying to get the damn can open, That's what I think of it. It's like, doing everything to get into that car.
Do you think okay, so I could see it this way. If instead of the car getting surrounded, if a bunch of them came from one side of the car, I could see that flipping it.
Yeah.
So if there was 20 people loitering outside, zombies loitering in a parking lot, and then they all came from one side and they tidal waved into the car, maybe that'd work. I don't know. Okay, we need to get some kind of.
I mean, and where is the car placement is? Is it
Yeah.
like kind of
on the
on
side
an
of the road?
embankment?
Like,
yeah, is it on
is
an
there a steep
embankment? And then
Yeah.
you just got some people just rolling into it just enough to edge it off to the side. I mean, there's a lot of questionable possibilities there.
I mean, I was tempted to go around a car on Section Road on the drive over here because it was going 15 miles an hour, and I was like, "Oh, that's too steep an embankment. If I get too close, like the car could roll." You know?
Yeah, definitely don't do that. Tom and Judy also show up. So they are this young couple. They're there because they heard the emergency broadcast. So they were just out. They heard this thing about the recently undead are coming back to life and eating people and assaulting them, and it's a riot situation, and get somewhere and hide. So that's what they're doing. So this begins the story of the battle of the basement versus upstairs, Ben versus Harry, where Harry is like, we just need to go to the basement. If we go to the basement, everything's fine in the basement. Not realizing the significance of his bit daughter. Like, he doesn't realize that she is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
And so he's advocating to go to the basement, whereas Ben is like, well, the basement's like the Alamo. It gets last resort. Like, if everything goes bad up here, we'll go down here. But there's other things we could do before then, and we could fortify this and all that. And this just puts them at odds over who is right and who is wrong. And then while that's going on, everybody upstairs starts to watch TV, and they start getting real time information. So they're watching the news. They learn about roving bands of men who are hunting zombies in the countryside. They learn how to kill the zombies by burning them or with headshots. And then scientists also believe it's because of radiation from an exploding space probe that was returning from Venus. So I thought this was like a really cool way to do like exposition and like just explain like what's going on in the world.
Caught up
and
real
everybody
quick.
was like, okay, I get it.
This is a throwback all the way back to like the radio broadcast of War of the Worlds, where like information is revealed in the news broadcast. You know, that's sort of the genius of Orson Welles, you know, and I think they borrowed a little of that for this. But just going back to the basement versus the upstairs thing, I see that as a very like isolationist versus community thing. That's kind of my take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just instinctively, I was like, there's a certain panic mode, especially when like that much violence is presented, and certain people are like, it's the fight or flight thing kicks in, and certain people just really make dumb decisions when they do that. It's like there is no reason to go down in a place and pigeonhole yourself, but people act out of emotion instead of that. So, I mean, I agree there's a bigger picture there, but I guess I read it like, I mean, again, it's background thing too. The martial artist in me is immediately like, oh, you're panicking, and panicking makes you want to turn around and run away, which is not what you want to give to an opponent, you know?
Yeah. And then they do eventually end up panicking anyway in a weird way. So then this kicks off the whole thing where it's like, all right, we're up here. We can go and we can get the truck. We can take Ben's truck. We can fill it up with gas. They have a gas tank there, which dude, I want to live on a farm where I have a gas tank. Like,
I mean,
That was a lot more common back then.
yeah.
So yeah, I remember even like when I was a kid, there were houses, and I'm talking here in the city, where people would have their own gas pumps.
that sounds like such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
There's so many bad ideas there.
I get it if you live in the middle of nowhere and it's you come to back to your compound to fill up before you go drive off again. Like if you're in super rural areas, but yeah, that would not be something I'd want to like have my neighbor have in their yard.
Yeah, if you're dealing with like extreme weather or something like that, I can get stuff like that. But yeah,
I remember there was a house over in Walnut Hills that I would drive by they had their own gas pump. Yeah. I mean, I didn't drive by. I was driven by as a child, but yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like the old school version of having a Tesla charger at your house, except
I guess, yeah. Except they could blow up.
Except, it could explode.
Yeah.
Well, Tesla charger could explode too.
That's
You know
true,
what?
yeah.
How far have we really come, when you think about it? So, okay. So then they're like, look, we'll get the truck and we can then go get medical supplies. We can help your kid. Everything's gonna be better. Let's go get the truck. So like Tom and Judy and Ben roll out there. They're trying to fill this thing up. They have a torch. Somehow the torch and the ends up lighting the truck on fire, and then the truck's on fire, and Tom and Judy are being eaten, and it explodes, and it's fucking pretty intense violence, especially at the time. Like there's a woman that just got exploded on fire as she was being eaten by cannibals. undead cannibals.
Yeah.
And then this sends Ben back to the house. As Ben's trucking back over to the house, he tries to get in, and Harry fucking locks him out and won't let him in. So then
Dick
Ben
move.
has to break in, and then he's pretty pissed.
Yeah. So let me just put across let me be devil's advocate here for a second, which is, we don't like what's his name, Harry.
Yeah.
We don't like Harry, and he's definitely the dick in this. But you can kind of see his point of view, and I'll say this about all the assholes, and there's going to be one in every one of these movies.
True.
You can kind of see his point of view, like holing up in the basement. He's like, we only have one entry to defend. Whereas if you're going to the whole house, there's every window, every door, that kind of makes sense, In this case, and I'll come back, and it happens since everybody imitates Romero. You've seen this in a million times in a million zombie films where it's like, oh, well, he could have been bitten. We don't want to take a chance, It's just like The Thing or anything else like that, where it's like, no, just fucking kill him. It's like, well, no, we're not letting him back in because he's probably been bitten, So I get that. Now, is it a dick move? Yeah. And, at that point, if I was Ben, I would have killed him, as soon as I got in. But,
Well, and I do think you bring up a good point there, because it's like the thing in pro wrestling where the best bad guys, the best heels are the guys that tell themselves, I have a reason to be doing this right now. And that's a great villain, where the villain is justified. And then you as the viewer are like, I mean, I can kind of see why, like this is some bullshit, right?
Yeah, that's the best part, when actually the audience themselves can kind of validate it.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, I kind of suck too.
Yeah, and it makes it complex, because like, even though you definitely have the good guy you're cheering for, at the same time you're like, I mean, if I'm in that situation, what do I do?
Yeah. I think that the middle line is like, in my opinion, to be drawn is like, has he actually been bitten? If he has, then you're a little more justified. If he hasn't, then you're just leaving him out to get bitten. And, that's an even bigger dick move. And I think that's where Harry lands here.
So things continue to break down when this happens. So Harry and Ben start to fight over the gun. Harry ends up getting shot. He staggers down the stairs and he dies beside his daughter. She reanimates, she begins to eat him, and then murders her mother with a garden trowel, which, again, like, we don't see this in Dawn or Day. Like, we don't see zombies stabbing people. They're not, like, they'll eat you, they'll mob you, but they don't, like, have knives and shit. They don't murder you.
Well, okay, so the way I see this is they're not totally stupid, and it's a child, so it can't overpower a full-grown adult, so it's a child ghoul, so it needs like the added advantage of a weapon. But I want to call this out real quick, because this actress, I think her name's like Kyra or Kaisa or something, like Shone. She's one of the first people, when I jumped on the internet for the first time, the World Wide Web, back in the early 90s when it first popped off, she already had a web page. And I went to it today to see if it was still there, and it's still there. It's called The Ghoul Next Door, or ghoulnextdoor.com. And she's a full-grown adult. She never pursued acting or anything like that. This is the one role, but she still comes out to conventions and stuff like that. And she has the trowel. She has the original trowel, which she's had it bent so that it'll stand on a shelf, like stand, and she seems really cool. I'm going to go back and check out her website and read more. She's got like lots of memories from it, and how she got in it by accident, because, it was originally supposed to be a little boy. And then for some reason they didn't have anyone else. Her dad was working on it, and they're like, hey, get in this. And so, yeah. And she really does steal the scenes she's in.
Yeah, definitely one of the more memorable scenes in that movie. And then also, because it's like got that weird, like noise in the background as this is all happening, kind of a weird, like, echoey effect. And yeah, you're seeing at the end of the day, you're seeing a child murder their parent. Like, that's happening in this movie. Hello, the 60s.
Yeah.
And so we get that. So then now it's down to Ben and Barbara. A reanimated Johnny appears, pulls. Barbara's she's just completely mentally gone. And she just gets sucked out of the house into a pool of ghouls, which, shitty way to die. Barbara, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This whole lady, I'm sorry for you.
I mean, she was so mentally checked out. She probably was just almost welcoming it at that point.
Yeah, maybe.
It might have been just putting her out of her misery.
I
It's
hope
gonna be a really shitty minute, and then you're good.
Nobody that has a mental breakdown ever, unless it's just a really small one, ever seems to survive these things. It's like you got to have all your wits about you, or you're gonna die.
Yeah,
these
you're
situations.
gonna get pulled out of a wall by a horde of undead cannibals, and that's what happened to
Now
her.
I kind of want to see a film where somebody has a mental breakdown in the beginning, just gets worse and worse and worse, and at the end their snapping point is just ultra violence.
Well,
They just choose the violent part and just like
that's kind of what Nicholson does in The Shining, right?
yeah, but I'm going to root for one.
You want to use it for good, not for murder.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like the person. Yeah, I just wanted to be, like, yay, they got a lawnmower.
Oh,
All right. So after all this, Ben, after Barbara gets pulled out, Ben is like, I got to go to the basement. Which Harry was right. Like Ben ends up going to the basement, ends up killing the entire Helen, Harry, the kid, all of them dead, and then he ends up just going to sleep because that's what you do when zombies are upstairs milling about. You go to sleep.
You're quiet then.
Yeah, I mean, after you murder a family, and it's been a day, like that's probably when you're like, I gotta at least get a 20-minute nap.
Yeah.
So, Ben's awakened to the sounds of sirens and gunshots. And the roving band of dudes show up, like the people they heard about on the newscast. So here's all these good old boys coming around, and they're shooting all of these zombies and killing them and clearing out the entire front yard. So what last night was like certain imminent death and doom, and for many people here it's now over. Everything's done. And so while all of this is happening, Ben pops his head out of the basement to look to see what's going on, immediately gets shot and killed. And then we see Ben's body unceremoniously pulled from the house. And then one of the guys goes, that's another one for the fire. And then they throw Ben into a bonfire with other ghouls and light it up. And that's your movie. Holy shit, dude. Did not see
Heavy
that
hitter.
coming.
Yeah.
yeah. And, this is where we can't escape the racial component. Like, these are good old boys. And, like, it has my favorite line from this movie when the camera crews are interviewing them and they're like, yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up. Like, that's my favorite line in that movie. And they seem pretty rednecky, and I'm not going to say that they're necessarily racist, but it hints
It alludes.
at that.
Yeah. It alludes.
The optics there are definitely in that direction.
Yeah, well, and it becomes this thing where it's like, did the person do it on purpose, or did they think Ben was a zombie? Like, what, who, why, how? And obviously, looking at the racial demographics of this, it's like, I could definitely see leaning in this direction on it.
Yeah.
But the movie doesn't tell you. It leaves up to you make up your mind. It's like, what do you think happened here? And now here's our hero dead in a fire.
Yeah. And that fire, when you watch it, it burns through the credits. It burns for a long time. I was the projectionist of this when it showed on film. We're not allowed to bring the house lights up until there is no more moving images. So it can be scrolling credits and we can bring it up. But if there's any kind of moving images, we have to keep it. And they scroll over that fire for the whole credits. And we're just sitting there. Yep, this movie's still going. It's a fire. It's staring at a bonfire for like 4 or 5 minutes,
Well, guys, anything else you want to say about Night of the Living Dead before we transition over into Dawn?
Yeah. I want to say that I'm going to go out there and say this is probably the most significant film in the horror genre in the latter half of the 20th century and the 21st century. Definitely the latter half of the 20th century. So there may be other films like Nosferatu or, Universal monster films, probably, Todd Browning's Dracula or something that are really significant in the first half of the century. But from mid-century onward, this is probably the single most important horror film. It had the greatest impact.
Yeah, it definitely, I think, changed the tonal shift of horror after that. So I agree. It was definitely the history mark.
Yeah, I do see Night of the Living Dead being that thing where we start switching away from like the like sci-fi aliens and monster movies of the 60s, like 50s and 60s, and it starts transitioning to something else in the 70s because this hits in like 68, and then when we get in the 70s, we get all sorts of crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, you're coming off the atomic age of horror. Especially, after the bombings in World War II, everybody all of a sudden was like, imaginations were riffing off of whatever giant bug they could come off of, or what weird, the space race and everything, what's out there that could possibly come back. And I think this kind of brought that lens back to much more of like social issues and culture as compared to kind of a wide spectrum of everything else.
And again, framing it in a place like Pittsburgh, like a rural area where like middle America can relate to, people in the South can relate to.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is something I'm not used to seeing in movies at all. Like it's a place where I live.
Yeah. And the government, the army is not going to come in and save you. None of that stuff that you get in like Godzilla films or whatever. It's like, round everybody up and grab your guns because like, it's just us, there is no one coming, Yeah.
Yeah. We are the backup squad. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Dawn of the Dead. Comes out in 1978, has a budget of $640,000, ended up doing $66 million at the box office. George A. Romero is the director of the film and wrote the screenplay. And the whole plot this time is a way bigger world. This is something I find interesting about this. And it's something that video games do sometimes, like the Arkham Asylum games did this, where like, in the first game, you're in the asylum. In the second game, you're in the city. This kind of has that feeling to me where in the first movie, you're in a house and then you actually get to see the impact on the world in Dawn. Like you get to see how widespread this is. What happens when this shit hits urban centers? Because like from what you know from Night, it's like, it's not too bad. It's like there's some good old boys walking around with like they're deer hunting, It's like they got 12 gauges. They're just blasting these dudes. They're putting them in bonfires. And yeah, like they're clearing out all the undead in the area. But
it's a pretty rural area.
Yeah. Now you get to see the impact of what happens when this thing hits a city. Like what happens when it hits Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And holy shit. Like it's a different tone, like off the bat. Like it feels so much more panic. And again, this is Romero just dropping you in. But yeah, it's a whole different world now, guys.
So should we start by talking about how there are a lot of different versions of this? So we can all get on the same page about what version we're talking about.
There is a lot of different versions of this. There's the original cut. There's director's cut. There's extended cut. This thing just goes on and on and on and on with all the different versions of it.
That's the worst part because I have no clue which ones I've seen.
Okay,
yeah.
So
I saw a movie.
So what happened here is in the U.S., the mainstream of horror was doing a lot of stuff like Rosemary's Baby and the Omen movies and the Exorcist films and the that kind of thing. But meanwhile, in Italy, they've got this whole giallo thing going on with these sort of really like street level kind of horror, which fits better with zombies. And one particular director becomes the producer of this for Romero, and that's Dario Argento. So he's sort of fallen in with the Italian camp rather than the mainstream U.S. camp when it comes to horror. And Dario has his own cut, and it's more of an action film. And Romero's cut got more slapstick in it and stuff like that, which now I like both of these cuts, and Dario Argento's cut has the addition of this like sort of spooky prog rock band Goblin on the soundtrack.
Goblin's awesome. I've seen him live.
And so what I really like is now someone has come out with what's called the complete cut. Now this film is also got copyright issues because some producer decided to make a 3D version of it. and was in process of doing that when Romero died. And so as a result, you can't find it on any streaming services. So if you don't have it on Blu-ray or something like that, DVD, you're not going to find it except quasi-legal versions. And this is one of those times where when you can't find something, I'm totally okay with bootlegs. And there is what's called the complete cut on YouTube of this. And it combines both the Argento cut and the Romero cut. Now, it's a little bit weird because they're different color timings on them, so you can tell when it shifts between one and the other, cut. But it's totally worth it because you get the slapstick that I think is very important in this film. And I'll talk about that later. That was one of the reasons I love this. This is my favorite of the trilogy. And then, but you also get the cool action stuff with the Goblin soundtrack that Argento did in his cut. So when I'm talking about this, I'm going to talk about all of it, both cuts, and really this complete cut that has everything in it.
This is one of the few movies that I got bummed when I got the Blu-ray of it because the paint jobs on the zombies in it look so bad when you can see them in the light. Yeah. And this is a rare time for me where I want a worse copy of this movie to watch. Like I want to go back
where's
and
the
just
VHS?
Yeah, like seriously, it would help out so much because like both the blood and the makeup effects now are very distracting to me, and I'm like, oh man, I can't unsee this.
Well, they weren't made for modern. That's like the whole thing now, where every horror film from the 80s and 70s is getting a 4K release. And I roll my eyes to it because I'm just like, I don't want to see every flaw and zipper on, the Swamp Thing films just came out in 4K and you can see the zipper. I literally just see the zipper on it. And it's like, we don't want to see that. We're good. So yeah, I totally think that films were made for the tools that were made at that time. And that's how you were supposed to view them. And I do think sometimes this constant updating is not necessarily the best and the kindest to the special effects.
Yeah, and let me say this, because Tom Savini does live within at least 150 miles of me, so at least 300 miles. There is a chance that Tom Savini could see me at some point and kick my ass, which is true, because even now in his 60s, like, Tom Savini is still a large dude.
Yeah, he's still hitting that gym.
He's not physically tall.
But he is wide.
So I met him at Twisted Nightmare Weekend. This is back in the day before like there were long lines to get autographs and stuff like that. I was at another booth that was right across from his, and I didn't even recognize him at first. Like the guy that I was there promoting a film was like, "That's Tom Savini over there," and so we started chatting because there was times when nobody was around, and he's like right across from us, and a lot of booth babes came and hung out and flirted with me. So he ended up writing on, he had a headshot and he wrote, "From one sex machine to another," and gave it to me. And unfortunately, I don't know where it's disappeared over the years, but shortly before that, he had been in a film called From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
And as an actor.
Yeah.
And he played a character called Sex Machine. So
Yes.
I thought it was awesome. But an interesting thing about Tom Savini, though, is that like he always wanted to be known for his acting. He wanted to be an actor. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what you're successful in this world, and it took me a long time to learn this, is not the thing you want to be good at. Like you happen to be good at something that is not the thing you originally planned on, And that's definitely true of Tom Savini, who really always wanted to be an actor, first and foremost. But when you say his name, first thing you think of, special effects.
And at the time, these are next level things. Like, this is one of the things that draws me to Dawn of the Dead is just the brutality of Dawn of the Dead. Like, the stuff that you see with people's heads exploding and most people getting shot in the head, people dying horrific deaths, limbs being cut off, people being bitten into. Like, it's an insane movie, especially for the time when it comes out.
Yeah, I think one thing too, there's actually a really, really good Tom Savini documentary. It's on Tubi. And it kind of talks about, like, because he was supposed to do the special effects on Night of the Living Dead. And I think that's right when he was going into Vietnam. Mm-hmm. He was a photographer in Vietnam. And when he came back, he was, got put to do special effects for this. And he was actually using a lot of the photos from Vietnam, like studying them and to see how dead people look. which is just a mind fuck. And in the documentary too, it kind of does discuss the fact of like, as sadly, a lot of vets had suffered PTSD and how he was processing that through these films, like as a special effects, and to kind of reacculate like violence, to make it add the slapstickness to that. Yeah, and it does talk about him a lot about wanting to just be an actor, and like the poor guy like was very studied actor, had all these skills to do it. And, he's known for making monsters. It's like you said.
It's really interesting that story plays over, particularly in Hollywood, but in a lot of things over and over again in life, where it's like someone is crazy good at something, even though that's not the thing they set out to do,
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so that's enough introduction. And we should probably say that Tom Savini goes on to direct his own version of this later on.
Let's go with this thing starts. We get the whole newsroom thing. Everything's breaking down. We see that the dude, one of the hosts is just like melting down on set. Like, it's just chaos. Like, people are walking off the set. Fuck this. Steven is the pilot that works for the news station, and his girlfriend is producer Fran Parker. She is also interested in leaving, and she's pregnant. So they're like, we definitely have to get out of here and make this happen.
We don't find out she's pregnant this early, do we, though? That's like a reveal later.
I think that does.
That's a reveal in the sort of the like when they're already holed up in the mall, I think.
Yeah, I mean they both know it, but we don't know it.
The audience doesn't.
Audience.
Yeah.
So let me before you get further down that road, let me talk about some things that you just said. So right from the jump, again, it's like Romero throws you into the deep end of the pool. Like the outbreak has already happened, So there's no like a lot of time wasting with backstory. I also want to point out that modern audiences might not realize this about television, but television was much more mannered back in that day. People yelling at each other on Fox News and shit like that all the time nowadays. That did not happen in 70s news programs. Like even a debate show, they would be very like calm and collected. And this has two guys yelling at each other on camera, and like everybody's losing their shit. Like it is like stuff's going crazy. This whole TV station's crazy. I think it's supposed to be they're staying on the air because they're the one source, which we saw at night, where everybody tunes in to see like where are the safe places to go, But they're like even talking about this. We're telling people fake safe places. Like we don't even know that these places are safe,
Yeah, and I do think that is like a major part to just the tonal shift of this, because before, like in the first movie, they're a trusted source of news. It's like, hey, they said to do this, we're doing this. Tom and Judy do it. They hear the broadcast, they go, they find a place to hunker down. Whereas that you immediately see this is all bullshit, and their society really is ending, and it gives you an idea of how broad this thing is. And then from there, we cut across town to Roger, and he's like on a SWAT team where they're raiding a project apartment. So basically what has happened is the people that are living in these apartments are not bringing out their dead, and they're keeping them in the basement. And so the SWAT team is then told to go in and clear the place of the dead. And as they go in, there's a firefight outside between them and residents that live there. But then when they go in, this guy Wooly, who's like super racist, is just indiscriminately killing anybody in the apartment. Like he just like starts mowing everybody down, no matter what. And then he is then taken out by another officer, and that's Peter. So Peter Washington takes him out. Peter and Roger start talking, and they're like, "Look, we gotta get out of here. Like, this really isn't working." And then before they leave, they get met by a priest. He tells them, "Hey, the dead are here. You can take care of them, but soon the dead will be more than the SWAT team. They'll be more than any of you." And so then they go through, kill everybody, and that's when they make the decision finally, like, yeah, we're getting on the flight. We're out of here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we should talk about this whole firefight that happens in the project, because they start getting into a fight with like the locals, right?
Yeah.
There's like
citizens.
There's a straight up like, I don't know, almost like Black Panthers versus cops thing going on in this, where there's like an open firefight going on in this housing project, and it goes on for several minutes, and it's in your face. Like, I was like going back and watching this, like I had forgotten about that, and I'm like, wow, like he's like pulling no punches right from the beginning. You're getting into Romero's issues with class and race and all that right from the beginning here.
It's kind of interesting too, because it sort of was a takeoff of Night, like speaking about those comments, and then we rotate into once it hits the mall, it does the social commentary of it does type it kind of shift from that. It's like, I do want to touch on the subject that yes we talked about in the previous movie, but I also want to get to this other subject that I want to talk. It is an interesting way to kind of extend the note and kind of still live in that first movie. But at the same time, it's not about the same subject matter of that first movie, afterwards.
Yeah, and the SWAT team guys, Roger and
Peter,
they are kind of fascists, right? Like, you're like not really sure that they're the good guys at this point in time,
But Peter does establish himself pretty quickly by killing Willie, where it's like, all right, this guy is at least not that guy. Yeah. Like this could be way worse. And these guys do seem to have like some set of morals, and finally at the end, being able to get done what needed to be done, but then also in a way where it did work with the community. You're like, all right, I can trust these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was a quick way to kind of tell that narrative. Like, again, to paint everybody how you want to have them painted for the rest of the film.
Yeah. So after we get through this, we end up getting on the helicopter. They're flying through the night. They end up realizing that they need to get fuel. They stop off at a rural airport. As they're filling up, we get two big things. One, Peter shoots some fucking kids. Like, that happens. Which is pretty big, man. Even then, I mean, that's pretty wild. Like, we're seeing, they're zombies, so you got to do it. But we just saw this man shoot some kids.
It's weird. It's because it's there's always like this, these unspoken rules that they say about films. And like, one thing is never shoot the kid. Mm-hmm. And then I think about like Assault on Precinct 13, which came out not too far from that, is like totally had a kid get blasted in the head in that film too. And I'm just like, Jesus, there was a lot of shooting kids at this point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of adults that just hated brats.
Well, I think we're still dealing with, in the 70s, people are still dealing with that whole, like you said in the first movie, Welcome to the 60s. It's like, even in mainstream cinema, what was going on? I already mentioned Rosemary's Baby and The Omen and stuff like that. It was all about like evil kids, it was like,
it's true.
Society hadn't gotten used to the fact that like, kids are evil. I say that not having any kids, but
so yeah, I mean, already we've had this extended gunfight with the SWAT team at the beginning. We saw a man's head get shot off with a shotgun, during that fight. Now we've seen this with Peter. We see a really cool zombie that becomes like the guy with the eyeball in the red checkered shirt, who's become like a famous member of the zombies of the movie, comes in the doorway, gets killed by Peter. And then we also get the helicopter zombie who, as they're filling up the helicopter, it steps up and immediately puts its head in the blade and gets whacked and falls over.
Yeah.
And probably, everybody already knows this, but we should point out that the reason they have a helicopter to begin with is because it was a news station, and, news stations have helicopters for traffic reports and stuff like that. So it has a reason. It seems like everybody copies Romero, and like every damn zombie film has a helicopter in it, but there's not a good reason for them to have a helicopter. Here, they have a reason to actually have a helicopter.
Yeah, and it's cool the way that this allows them to travel and allows them to then get to the mall. And it's an interesting thing as they find this place, because they see it and it's just like, holy shit, let's check it out. And they're a little worried about it. They're like, should be. There's a lot of them. It's, no, we think we can handle it. They end up setting down. They end up going inside, and they end up exploring this place and trying to figure out what exactly this thing is.
Yeah. And on the way to that, when we get those helicopter shots, we get to see what it's like in the countryside. So we get to see scenes that look very much like night, where there's like little pockets of resistance happening in various places, and like zombies are still, there, and that's where you get the sense, because they don't know that it's everywhere either. They until they get out of the country, and they're like, yeah, just leaving the city isn't going to save us, But are we ready to talk about the mall? Because I got a lot to say about the mall.
I mean, we're at the mall, so
We're at the mall.
All right. So the mall years in America were really the mid to late 70s and the 80s. And the mall had everything in it. It had everything you needed. There was nothing you couldn't buy at the mall. And and there was this mass consumerism going on. In fact, me and some of my friends were actually, not too long after Day comes out in the mid 80s or whatever, we were actually hired to be extras because they wanted a bunch of punk rockers for a scene that was shot at what was then called Forest Fair Mall. And it's now that abandoned mall, which would be a great setting for a zombie film, by the way, out in, where is that? It's the I don't know what it's called now. I don't know, way out in the northwest side of Cincinnati. The Hills? Do they call it the Hills?
Oh, I don't
know.
It's a fucking abandoned mall. It's
I don't go to
awesome.
malls, dude.
It's awesome. It is. You should go because there's nothing in there anymore. It's completely abandoned. But you can still get into it. Anyway, but there was a sketch comedy show and there were mall walkers that would just walk around the mall, and they were making fun of that. Well, that was a real thing, mall walking. People would go to the mall just to fucking walk.
Oh yeah, people still do that.
And
Yeah,
It's a huge track, and you don't get to pay for it.
it's true.
And then also, we're used to these Black Friday sales where people trample each other and try to grab stuff. Well, that shit started in the 80s and stuff like that with Cabbage Patch and stuff. There was like little things that were leading up to that, even as early as the late 70s. So when I saw this, I'm like, this is an incredible satire on sort of this consumerist culture, American mall culture. And that's one of the things that I love about this particular film is he's like, whereas the first one was like, okay, suburban America is so claustrophobic and it's not really this, utopia that it portrays itself to be. And this one does the same thing with like this like suburban mall culture, this like, buy, people wander. Like they even talk about why are they wandering the mall? Well, because, it's the last, it was an important place to them.
Yeah, it's what they knew.
Like, it's what they know.
They came back to. Jaimie, mall, good place to hunker down at, bad place to stay at.
There's a lot of supplies there. I mean, maybe in that era, I think especially the way they were projecting that mall, it was a little bit more like they had everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Guns. You could buy guns.
You could buy guns at the mall.
Guns,
yeah. So,
meat.
yeah. It's amazing how, throughout my years, you'll meet people that have seriously spent time being like, well, if there's a zombie apocalypse, this is my blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to be at this Walmart because they have this shotguns and this shells and this food and this meat and this. And it is, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. These places that have a bunch of shit is probably where you would want to stay. So, yeah, and it is kind of fortified. These places are built that when they close down, people can't get in. That's the whole goal.
The thing is, those things now would turn over so quick. Because I remember like when COVID hit and we had the whole thing where like they were like, DeWine was like, hey, we're shutting it down for 2 weeks. Everybody's got to go home. And I remember going to Kroger that day, and it was just the shelves were getting wiped out.
Yeah.
And that talks about like the supply chain of America, where like stores can hold so much shit, but they don't hold an infinite amount of shit.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong, who else is going to show up with this exact same plan, or how quickly is it gone before we even get to
and
it?
again, this is why we have so many shows and movies that are arguably more about people fighting with people than they are fighting with the outside zombie and things like that because of that reaction.
We need to get to the Amazon warehouse.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's kind of cool for anyone that was alive at the time of these early shopping malls is you get to see, well, there's a, like where I live in, we had a JC Penney's and it closed recently. Well, they spend a lot of time in Penney's in this before it was JC, and you get to see like that place and the Brown Derby and all these places. They're like, oh yeah, that was a thing once upon a time. Yeah, that
actually
was
existed.
What's that?
That actually existed. Yeah.
That actually existed. So I'm seeing the names of some of these stores and it's jogging distant memories from childhood, so it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think it's a mall would be a great place especially at that era to go hole up if you could find them all. Cause yeah, it's not infinite, but it could last a really long time.
And they're like, we can turn this into a fortress, and we can live like kings if we do this. And so they take the risk. They go, okay, let's make this happen, and they devise a plan to make this work. And so they got to cover up the doors. They got to make sure that like the zombies can't get inside, and then they also have to kill off all the zombies inside. Boom, everything will be cool. Well, during this, Roger just kind of like he about gets bit, and then he just kind of has a mental break. He just kind of loses it, and he starts playing very fast and loose, and then he ends up getting bit. And while they do end up winning the mall, they end up losing a dude in the process.
Yeah, it's a very sad scene. It's a bummer.
Roger, again, the white guy, the sort of, he represents like the mainstream white guy. And I as kind of a person of color, I kind of say that, but he's like the there's always this sort of mainstream white guy in these Romero zombie films who's not really the voice of reason. It's always the black guy who's the voice of reason. And in this, what's the character's name?
Roger that gets bit.
Roger.
Yeah.
No, what's the black guy?
Oh, Peter.
Peter. Who's sort of the voice of reason and also sort of the philosopher, he has a time. He says probably the line that was on the box and the poster, and it was like the hook that like, yeah, I want to see that because we saw all these on videotape. Like I said at the beginning, after seeing the one, we're like, let's go back and watch the others. And it was like, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. And we're like, yes, must see that,
Jaimie, was this the first time that you were introduced to Kim Ferret as when he was Peter?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so for me too. Like now I see him pop up and shit, and I'm like, oh, dude, Peter, and
I would think that's probably the first film.
Yeah, so like seeing him pop up in this, and then in the new Night of Living, in the new Dawn of the Dead when it got remade, and then of course with the second zombie movie, not House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects.
Oh yeah.
Like super cool dude, and again, I'm with you. Like he does. Again, he wins you over this whole movie. He is the hero. Like he is the guy that he's got his shit together. He's talking to other characters. Like he has once they do find out if that Steven and Fran are pregnant, like Peter has a real conversation with her, and he's like, do you want to get rid of it, and or do you want to risk bringing a child into this world? And Fran has to think about it, and she's like, "No, I'm keeping it." And he's like, "All right, cool." Like that's a pretty big conversation to have for any two characters in the movie. It's like, and it really does speak to the realness of the situation.
Yeah, and he also, I mentioned way at the beginning my deal with the word zombie and the word ghoul, and he's the one that has some recollection to his father talking about these things and. He mentions them to the closest thing that he's aware of, which is, Haitian voodoo type zombies. So he mentions the word zombie. This film gets released in Italy as Zombie. That's its title because of that. And this is now where we get calling these things zombie films because and the Italians called it Zombie. And then Lucio Fulci, another Italian horror director, makes the sequel to it. So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. The great Lucio Fulci.
The great Lucio. I'm not as sold on him as some of the other Italian directors, but yeah, Lucio Fulci makes Zombie 2, and so that's the first spin-off series of these Living Dead films. We'll talk about another spin-off series. This thing spins off series left and right. But yeah, anyway. So that's where the initial confusion in my mind between ghouls and zombies happens. And thanks to the Italians, now all these films are called zombie films instead of ghoul films, which they should be called.
So, all right, now that everything's been won, and they get to celebrate having them all, and this is like a good montage of just like I don't know, it's kind of like enjoying, like knowing you're gonna die, so enjoying your last day. Like they're really trying to give Roger like a proper send off, but at the same time, it's sad because you know that
He's dead.
He's dead, you know, and it's
they wheel him around in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they let him play arcade games.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
Taking the puppy out to the farm one last time.
really is exactly what it is. 100%. He's allowed to have cheeseburgers tonight or whatever else he wants.
Yeah.
Like, and then Peter has to kill his friend, or his reanimated friend, you know. And then that's another heavy thing that you see and you have to deal with.
and he has to stand watch until he comes back. You know.
So after this is kind of the turn. This is where it's like, okay, we won, but this is not forever, and things are kind of starting to fall apart because like it's just what's happiness? We're stuck here. It's just the three of us. Fran wants to figure out how to fly the helicopter, which Flyboy agrees to. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. She's like, if you die or incapacitated, you'll be able to get out of here. So they do. Well, when they fly up the helicopter, that triggers a response from a nomadic bike gang that is driving through the area, which led by Tom Savini. And then they come to attack the mall.
Yeah.
And so, covering a lot of ground real quick here, but that's what we're setting up to as the finale.
So they weren't originally. They were a little resistant to teaching her how to fly, and she makes the case for herself that's like, look, I need to know how to fly in case something happens to you guys. And that's when the reveal that she's pregnant also happens. She's like, also, I need to protect not just me, but, I'm pregnant, So that's kind of the little toss out there. I don't think Tom Savini's the leader of the bike gang, but he's definitely an important, general. But with the bike gang, we get another one of these. I kind of liken them to this caricature of the redneck good old boys that were hunting in the end of Night. It's another expression of sort of, let's face it, most bike gangs, largely white, and it's another expression of this sort of weird male-dominated society that Romero keeps coming back to. There'll be a different one when we get to Day, but I think that he's sort of saying this is one way that society could reform itself, in this sort of hierarchical, pillaging bike gang sort of society. It could turn into this like feudal nomad thing, the Mad Max thing,
Yeah, no, it is like a definite trope of anytime anything goes bad, there's always the gang mentality is going to kick into certain people. And it definitely carries that. So,
yeah.
And
we see that in The Road,
Yeah.
It's like, it's that same idea of like, look, bad shit's happening. I'm a badass. You're a badass. Let's band together. We have strength in numbers.
Yeah. I feel like, again, if the world really did take a downfall, that wouldn't be long until that was pretty common, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense.
It's tribalism.
Yeah,
really, in the end of the day.
Society has fallen. Here we are.
Yeah.
This is the new world.
Is
this is the new groups that we're living in.
Yeah.
Is this before or after Night Riders? Romero's.
Let's see. That would be time. So what year was this one?
78.
I think Night Riders was in the 80s. I think that's right.
All right.
I think it is.
Making me Google.
Also, too, though, this is the era when those biker gangs were far more into pop culture, like starting to show up more.
Yeah.
Those were, again, what year was this?
78.
78. Okay, so it was the middle or beginning of the 70s or middle of the 70s when the Rolling Stone show happened, that the Hells Angels.
That was at the late 60s, early 70s. That was right around the turn of the decade.
Yeah, but that was kind of like also the like
Altamont.
what are Hells Angels? And then all of a
and
sudden
then
everybody
that
had to learn what
everybody
Hells
knows
Angels
who
were.
Hells that Hells Angels became shorthand for biker gang.
Yeah. Like everybody, So, and then it did seem like that pop culture from that kind of, which is funny because there was like the movie Biker Gang, quote unquote, that was a bunch of 16-year-old, rock and rebel kids with Elvis hair. And then all of a sudden it turned into the guys that show up at the mall.
Yeah.
Because that negative connotation came from that,
Yeah.
So, but one of the great things that happens is they storm the place and they get in, and the people end up having to fall back.
Well, they storm the place because Steven kicks it off because Steven's up in the rafters, and instead of just letting them take it, he's like, no, it's ours, and shoots at them. And then, everything goes sideways.
Yeah. So you get into, again, not to belabor a point, but you get into the white male pissing contest, right? That's what it is. He could have just stuck to the plan, fell back, but he had to like take on this entire biker gang being like, no, this is ours. And because of that, they storm the place and they get in. Now, when they get in at least the Romero cut, this is where we get one of the parts of the film that I love. Because there weren't a lot of horror comedies before this. I feel like it's a genre unto itself now, but you either got comedies, straight up comedies that had some horror element, like a spooky comedy ghost story, wacky ghosts, and like made by Disney or something, or you got horror. But this like treads the line so well. There's this scene where the bikers come in, they're like, yeah, we know we're badass, and they raid this pastry shop, and there's like a pie fight with zombies. They're riding their motorcycles through the mall and like throwing pies in the faces of zombies. And I'm like, yes, we've hit Three Stooges like level of humor here. I'm like, this is just great. Like, and that's what I thought was sorely missing from remakes of this movie that have happened since. I'm like, who made a remake of this recently?
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. Oh my God. It was just like, it was like a paint by numbers. Like it had none of the vision of like a Romero. It's like we understand the basics of zombies versus people in mall, but there's no like, it lacked that like sarcastic take on consumer culture and the zombie pie fight. Like, bikers versus zombies. Come on,
And then we also get like a bunch of crazy blood effects in this because again, this is where everything is now going like south. Like the whole thing is gone as the bikers have broke in, having pie fights. Also, for some reason, sticking arms inside of a blood pressure machine and then getting ripped off. I don't know what that guy was thinking.
I had to rewatch that. And I'm like, what is going on? And what I think happened there, which I didn't understand the first time, I'm like, why is he doing that? But what I think it was supposed to be was he did that before they came in, the zombies came around, and then he was stuck. It was holding him so he couldn't escape. But I didn't realize that the first time through either. I was like, what's he doing? Why is he like sacrificing himself? But
and then great gore effect here. Like Savini just really does a nice job with this.
Oh yeah. This is, it's just set piece after set piece after set piece, just showing off.
Big kills, one right after another. So Peter figures out that shit's going wrong. He comes down and sees it, and he's like, he sticks to the plan. He's like, all right, fuck it, we got to get out of here, and goes upstairs to tell Fran. And then Steven reanimates because he was shot, and then he was munched on by some zombies. He reanimates, and then like before, like you said, with they come to the mall because it's what they know. Steven starts to go upstairs to the safe room because it's what he knows. Yeah. And so he then starts leading like a Pied Piper, all these zombies behind him to then go up into the safe room. So then Peter and Fran are up there. They got to make a decision on what to do. Fran's like, let's go. Peter says, I'm staying. And Fran's like, okay, I mean, all right, I'm going. And then they separate. Peter goes to shoot whoever comes through the door, has a change of heart, ends up action movie soundtrack time, ends up fighting all these fucking zombies, shooting them, karate fighting them, getting out of there, gets up through the roof, jumps in the helicopter with Fran, and he's like, how are we on gas? She's like, we got some. He's like, all right, cool. And they take off, and Finn.
There we go.
Yeah. I think that I gotta make a shout out to some of the little touches that were thrown in here too, like the Hare Krishna zombie.
Nice.
Like, yeah, because they're practically zombies already, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you ever run into Hare Krishnas, there's that like kind of like dead eye look they have already. So it's like, yeah, I could easily see them being like, yeah,
That dude wasn't even bit. He was a stare. Yeah.
We get more of this in Day, but this is a thing where you start seeing like main zombies that stick out to you, and you're like, oh shit, it's that one. Like there's like the fat guy in the swim trunks that's wandering around at one point. And there's a few other zombies that they truly stick out, where it's like, the nurse zombie. My dad got me an autograph from her and her husband, who live in Pittsburgh, and they own a motel, and my dad was inspecting it, and so he got
pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I wonder how many people in Pittsburgh were a zombie.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, so many. I mean,
so many people.
Like every, I wonder if it's like everybody knows somebody that was a zombie.
Yeah, I would say it's got to be something like that. We're like, if you live in Pittsburgh, somebody, through like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon way.
Somebody's grandpa was a
in a
zombie.
Romero.
Someone's dad did something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they got pictures from the set. That kind of shit. For sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Peter deciding not to end it all and escaping? Like, do you right move, wrong move? Like, it's something that I wasn't expecting the first time I saw it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of depressive by nature, and I would have probably killed myself. But like, I think he did the right thing, if nothing else, because we're all sitting there like, what's going to be the next movie?
Yeah.
So,
and I also wondered, like, do you think he didn't do it because he needed to protect Fran, like, because he realized he was sending a pregnant woman out into the world by herself? Or do you think it was like he just, again, fight or flight, and like Peter, once confronted with it, was like, I can't commit suicide, and he decides to not do it?
I think just by his character, he's the type that's like, well, I fought this long already. Like, might as well go out down the road. We'll see how it ends up from that. I get like again, it's just fighting against nihilism the whole time. Yeah. Those situations would put you in that. So.
I think the fact that there is a potential in another generation, like before that, it was like, well, we're just holding out for no reason. We're just holding out to stay alive. We're staving off the inevitable,
Yeah.
There's that feeling throughout. It really starts to grow after the bike gang and stuff like that. But I think that the fact that she's pregnant does matter, like, to him. He's like, okay, we humans actually do have a little bit of a chance, if I can get this one woman out of here. Yeah.
Before we move on, anything else for Dawn of the Dead?
Favorite of the franchise.
It's my favorite too. It's
my second.
Definitely. I mean, just having grown up around that whole mall culture, which just I reviled so much. Like seeing it get skewered this way was just like right on target. Like, and the amount of people that went totally over their head, and Zack Snyder's a perfect example. It's like, I know that malls aren't as big a thing now, or this isn't even recent anymore, when he made that movie. But, the whole like satire on consumer culture was completely missing in the remake. And that's like the most important thing about this film.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think, I always think like if this film was made today, there could be a satire of just like phone culture, just the constant assumption of we've changed them all out to constantly consume our phone, like
Yeah.
whatever way that is.
So if someone out there is looking to make a zombie film,
Yeah.
there you go. There's a free idea for you because it's like, have something to say. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to make a movie, don't be like, I'm going to make a zombie movie because I want to have zombies in it. You know, have a reason for it.
Yep, and as I always say, my favorite metal bands are the ones where I can actually understand what you're saying when you're singing. Like, that's the thing is like having, especially with something that's been overdone as zombies, and like and especially in the post The Walking Dead era, like just the amount of zombie fatigue we have now.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna put zombies in something, like there's got to be a reason for there to be zombies here because we've seen zombies in every which way you can imagine at this point.
Yeah, I think at this point, like I'd be quite happy if we just took a break off zombies for
So
10 to 15 years.
There was a theory, before we get on to the next film, there was a theory that zombie films coincided with downturns in the economy, and that the first wave, the sort of voodoo wave, this is something that serious film geeks have been analyzing for a long time. The very first, the Zombies on Broadway, I Walked with a Zombie, that kind of zombie film coincided with the Great Depression. And then from the 60s and definitely the 70s, where inflation was through the roof and all of that, there was the second wave of zombie films. And there was another one during there was a mini recession going on during the Reagan years, and that's the time where this next film comes in. But then after 9/11, for a lot of people, things never got better. There was first the hospitality industry and the airlines, and then then the disastrous war in Iraq, that sort of really sunk the economy, which led to like runs on plywood and stuff like that, which caused the housing bubble, which then burst, and then that led to the housing crisis, and then the credit crisis that almost took down the whole world economy, and then like wages have never gone back to being like what they were in the 90s, relative to the cost of living, And so one of the theories of why this zombie craze, if we want to call it that, has lasted so long, instead of like all the others that came in waves and went, and this one came and is still kind of going now, is because the economy still sucks, for a lot of people. Yeah. Anyway, highbrow movie geek economy theory out there.
Well, let's talk about the economy of the 80s, which is when Day of the Dead is made. So Day of the Dead comes out in 1985 with... it was made for $3.5 to $4 million and at a box office of $34 million. Here's the thing, though. This was not the movie that was supposed to be made. Like Romero had this whole other idea of like expanding what the final movie was, where it was like a huge underground base and they're like figuring out how to weaponize zombies and like how to use them as a weapon, and there's like way more people and scientists, and this is just like a big grander vision, but they just couldn't make it work where it's like, okay, if you want no rating, you have to take less money. If you want an R rating and you want to make this, you have to confine it in R rating, and George was like, I can't make this not rated. Right. And they're like, well, you get a smaller check. And so this is the movie that we get. Yeah, man, it is. It's cool. It's shot like the whole thing is shot. Not the whole thing, but the primarily is shot in an underground bunker, and it just has like this like real like claustrophobic feel to it, and just nobody really likes each other. Like coming off of Dom, where like everybody was kind of on the same team and pulling in the same direction. This is just chaos. Like people are just not happy to be around each other. You get the feeling people get murdered in a second, and while we did start seeing the fall of the world in Dawn, like Day cements it again. Big opening in the beginning. Day underscores like the world has ended.
Yeah,
like,
it's fucked.
It's gone.
Yeah. So again, we jump in right from the beginning. Shit has gone sideways, and I worked on a film that was shot in one of these underground bunkers things, and they're really storage areas, and the Army made them, and some of them go back all the way to the Civil War. And I don't think a lot of people realize this. These things exist. They dot the landscape all over Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. There are these places cut into the limestone that you can drive semis into. They're just vast storage areas that the Army has built, and they're everywhere. And I don't think people realize that. Now, they're not like missile silos. This one tries to like convince you that it's part of a missile silo. So in the story but they do exist. I'm not going to plug what movie I worked on, but there was a movie I worked on that was shot in one of these. It looked exactly like this. It wasn't the same one, but it looked exactly like it. And yeah, I mean, now we're in the Reagan 80s, right? And so like the idea when I was a teenager, everybody I knew had a plan of where are we going to go when the bomb drops, you know? And it was even in like every pop song, you know, Prince songs and stuff like that. It's like, why does everybody have a bomb, you know? And like, we always had planned to go to like GE, where the Evendale jet engine factory is, because we were always told that would be obliterated in the first wave, you know, so we wouldn't have to live through the, you know, but this is where we get all these movies like the Road Warrior movies and stuff like that, where it's like, because everybody's thinking, yeah, this could happen. Like, not necessarily with zombies, but we could be in a total societal breakdown. And there are a lot of films from this period that are like that. Not just zombie films. Yeah.
It was definitely on everybody's mind. You know, it was definitely a threat of that time. Being just a little kid at that time, I remember still just being kind of freaked out by that idea. And it was in pop culture. Also, as far as the movie, because so much of it's like military complex guys and it's like hoo-ha military guys. This was also the era where Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, the action, especially like our generation, what we think of when we think action film star came about. Like, it was no longer John Wayne. It was no longer, you know, some kind of average looking guy. It was some dude who's just jacked as fuck, wearing camouflage, shooting 85 dudes in a jungle. So it was an interesting take to be like, these are the negative, you know,
yeah,
the yin and yang of that character.
I was going to wait before commenting on that, but yeah, basically this is the third iteration of toxic masculinity. You get the old, like the head of the household thing in Night, and you get the biker gang in Dawn, and then in Day, it's definitely the Army. It's
big
the
time.
Army are definitely the bad guys. But honestly, again, you can see their point of view. Like,
well, my thing is, again, it goes back to the wrestling thing, and I always said, like, the one thing that True Detective, the first season, there's a Matthew McConaughey says this. And I'm going to probably fuck it up, but it's basically like, we're the bad men to keep the bad men from getting in. Mm-hmm. And that is like one of the best written like lines I've ever heard of anything. Yeah. Because it's like, the fact of the matter is, if it's just the peace-loving scientists down here doing their thing, they're fucked. As soon as a zombie walks in, they're fucked. They don't know how to, as soon as that magazine runs out, they're like, I don't know how to load this gun anymore. But, you know, as compared to these horrible pieces of shit that are like, yeah, but when it gets dirty, we're the people you're going to need to save your ass. Mm-hmm. And as much as people can dislike them, I get it completely. They're unfortunately needed in these situations.
I like to think of the film The Siege, the Denzel Washington and Bruce Willis film. Did you guys see that?
Siege.
The Siege. Basically, it's about there being like, there's like a terrorist cell in the U.S. and you know, it sort of deals with kind of Islamic terrorists. I don't think they could call them that or whatever. And Bruce Willis is in charge of like the army, and there's like, they want to put the city under martial law, and you know, Bruce Willis tries to talk him out of it. He's like, you know, I beg you, do not do this, you know, because as soon as you do this, it's going to be tanks in, you know, rolling down Main Street, America, you know, and he's like, the army is a broadsword, not a scalpel.
Yeah.
And of course they do that. They do that, and he ends up becoming the villain, because it is martial law, and he's so like dictatorial, like taking over like the city. But he warned them in the beginning. He's like, "Don't do this, because if you do this, I'm coming in, because we take no prisoners. We come in, we kill people left and right. That's what we do. And I feel that's kind of like what we get in this, where it's like the army guys are kind of like, you know what? This guy's been bit. Fuck him. Shoot him.
Yeah.
It's like there's no like compassion there, because he's going to turn on us sooner or later, and that particular situation comes up in this,
Yeah. And it does. I think it shines a good light on that, the questionable behavior in that, but it also does. There is a weird part of being like, again, like, is it needed in these situations? I mean, again, if you're in a horrible, violent situation, you probably want a horrible, violent guy on your side. You know what I mean?
And then the flip of that is this is very much the army versus the scientists, and the scientists aren't exactly the good guys.
They're not
either,
good.
because it's like the one guy they call Frankenstein. He's doing some shit that I'm
Pretty
like,
horrible.
You know what? This is like science unchecked here. There's no one like you can do whatever you want. Well, I don't think we want that either. You know?
And I mean, in the fall of humanity, again, everybody's choices become extremely again, this is like further down the road, kind of showing that point of everybody is good. Once those rules are broken, like the morals of everybody are very questionable.
Again, we have the woman and the black guy that are sort of our heroes. And we get a little too uncomfortably close to what like Spike Lee calls the magical Negro with the black guy here, where he's kind of like the philosopher leader of them. He gets a little too zen for me at times, but yeah, he's definitely, if there are any good guys, it's those two in this.
Yeah. Yeah, so kicking off the movie, like coming out the gates with this, with like that's when we meet up with the characters. We meet up with Dr. Sarah Bowman. Well, we get like the crazy intro through the calendar shot. That shot always scared me, even as a kid, where she's dreaming and then she wakes up. She's in the helicopter. They're flying into the city. We see everything's fucked up. We get a cool alligator, which unexpected, but awesome. I enjoy that every time. And we also get Dr. Tongue with our title card, which is another famous Tom Savini creation. Savini goes off in this movie. It is just wall-to-wall blood and things getting ripped apart, and everything is incredibly graphic.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like, again, he had to step up his game as compared to the last film. And he's got more years of experience by this point.
And he's got a lot more money to play with.
A lot more money. So in the helicopter is Sarah and Miguel. Sarah and Miguel are dating. Miguel is a private in the military. Sarah's one of the scientists. We also get the radio operator, Bill McDermott. Bill's great because he's just constantly drinking. That's his gimmick. And
okay, so this is where we get, I think, one of the worst stereotypes in this trilogy, because he's like the Irish guy, like the drunken Irish guy. But then, he's still kind of
as a half Irish guy. Got a lot of drunk uncles.
If I was in this situation, I'd be like, you know what, this makes sense. And also, he's one of the most likable dudes in the film. Bill never does anything where I'm like, I dislike Bill. Like, there's questionable stuff happening with the scientists and with the military guys, but Bill, I'm always like, hey, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm like, would you really want to be that sober in this situation at all times? Like,
oh, totally. There are tons of people that would be like him in this situation.
Yeah. And then we also get John, who's the pilot of the helicopter. And again, John and again Bill, they're kind of on the outside of this. Like, and that's also kind of interesting. These two characters to have, where like these guys aren't either specifically on the scientist team or they're on the military team. They're kind of like, well, let me see what happens here, and I can choose what I want to do or who I should support. And so they have to, it's shades of gray. They got to make decisions as well.
Yeah, which I think like it's an interesting thing, kind of coming into that part of society of like, I feel like there's a lot of people that are sort of just like, I don't really want to be a part of either of you guys. Mm-hmm. Like, and it is good to see that like kind of represented in that sense of like, again, there's a mad scientist and there's these like uber douchebag military dudes, and like, fuck all y'all. Like And I think there is a lot of society that doesn't feel seen because they just don't want to be a part of either of that and just kind of want to hide out. And it's kind of nice to see it in a film.
So after they figure out that Fort Myers is a bust, they fly back to the base. They land. One of the soldiers outside tending to his marijuana crop, sick dude. Oh, hell yeah. And then
Which, by the way, isn't actually marijuana. Like, it's like false Aurelia or something like that. I know this because, like, I live someplace where it's legal, so my neighbors grow this shit right outside my door, you know, and every day I see marijuana plants, and that was not a marijuana plant, but it was clearly supposed to be a marijuana plant.
yeah, again, the whole downfall of society where it's like, look, man, we're in the military, but fuck it. We're just doing what we want now.
Yeah.
Like, we understand that we're no longer, like, are we part of something bigger? Maybe, sure, but do we? Nah, whatever. It's no longer rank and file per se. We're going to have some gray areas.
It reminds me of like Apocalypse Now type Vietnam shit where it's like there's this one platoon and they're out in the middle of nowhere and they're like, fuck it, there are no rules in the jungle. We're gonna like smoke weed and we're gonna do whatever. We're still gonna do our mission, but we're gonna do what we want along the way. You know?
Can I give a quick anecdote that I just found funny?
What's up?
My dad was telling me the other day. My dad's a Vietnam vet, Marine, and he was telling me that in he's like, everybody just smoked weed. You did whatever you wanted because you were in hell. But he said people will walk by and he'd be like, hey, my mom sent us candy from L.A. And that was code word for drugs. So when you knew somebody got a good shipment of something, when it was, hey, my mom sent us candy from L.A. So
Listener, it's a
You're welcome.
It's a historical educational podcast.
yeah, you're not going to get that on some Vietnam documentaries. Thank you.
So as they land, they figure out that Major Cooper has died because they see his grave. And so then they check in downstairs, and Sarah starts walking, goes to Frankenstein's room, talks to Frankenstein, where we get some incredible gore. We get a guy just rolling over and spilling out his guts all
Great
over
scene.
the place, and then getting Dremel drilled through the middle of the fucking head. Tom Savini. And then that's when she makes the discovery that, oh shit, you're up to no good. You're using the men. You're using the soldiers.
The colonel, or what was his rank?
Major Cooper.
Major Cooper. We find out that there's this body there. There's this one of the undead that he's working on. All it is like a brain and a
That's
spinal
it.
column. It's like, and we're like, we find out that's Major Cooper. You
Yeah.
know? And they're like, oh shit.
And it's like, that's a fate worse than death. Like, and you see like the brain like kind of like flicking around and shit, and it's like, oh.
And if you've ever been around a military family or whatever, or anything, if you've ever been on a military base or whatever, the dead is something that's taken very sacredly in the military,
Mm-hmm.
And so like, she's like, if they find out this shit, forget it. They're going to kill us all,
Yeah, and again, there's uneasy tensions already, and this is going to take it to a boiling point. So once all this goes down, now that Major Cooper is out of the way, that means that Rhodes is taken over, and Rhodes is like, basically it's inferred that like Cooper was trying to be nice to you people, Rhodes is not, and he's got his band of goons with Rickles and Steele, and they are, you can see what's lining up here, where these guys are going to be running the things because they have the guns, and they say how it goes, and this inflames a huge argument with the scientist.
Yeah. I don't know where to go with that. It's
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, again, just telling the narration to explain the tension between them.
Yeah.
Explain the different viewpoints between them. And it's also kind of like, again, in if this was a shitty situation that was real, and I'm sure there's plenty of situations of that, you are stuck with people that you ideologically do not have anything similar to. And it's like, when those heads start to butt, bad things are going to happen.
So after this, after they figure out that things are still not good, Sarah ends up discussing the situation with John and Bill at their RV, and talks about what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to be Switzerland about it and not do anything. And then after this is when we are introduced to Bub. And Bub is a very interesting zombie because Bub is unlike something we've ever seen before in the Romeroverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bub has some he's almost like kind of like a dog.
Yes.
He's got about that level of intelligence. And this is why I say that everybody rips Romero off. Every zombie film that's come off after this trilogy could be spun off from something that's in one of these one of these three movies. It's like every zombie film borrows from one of these things. I saw one that I thought was kind of cool not that long ago. Well, not that long ago, being 20 years ago now, probably. But like Fido, did you guys ever see that?
I saw Fido, yeah.
Where a guy trains a zombie, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like all he did was they took Bub from this, and let's explore Bub's story more, or whatever. Like the genius of Romero is he thought of all of these things to explore in 3 movies, and like whole television franchises and stuff like that have like explored one segment. There's almost no zombie film you can mention in the past, 20, 30, 40 years that you can't trace something from it back to one of these Romero films.
Yeah, and Bub is just, I don't know. I mean, to me, he's such a departure from anything else, Jaimie. Like the fact that he does have intelligence, like you like him, like he's a likable.
I feel
thing.
like that's kind of the point too. Again, now you're making a character that you can a zombie, quote unquote, ghoul that you can be empathetic towards. Now you're sort of just like, well, I would feel bad if Bub dies, like and then that makes you question about every zombie you've watched laughing, as they're getting an axe through their head or a bullet or whatever, and you're like, well, hold on, I would feel bad, And it does one thing too, is like the little girl from the Night of the Living Dead using the tool, I feel like does kind of give us an idea that, again, like we have assumed they're all completely dead fools. There's nothing in them of humanity left. It's okay to kill them in every form and fashion. I always wondered if there was a movie where you actually went into like a zombie's head and the whole time they're screaming how... We were going to talk about some other films that are based on the zombie ghoul thing, and they do talk in those, and the idea that they're in pain the whole time and how miserable they are and they're just starving and things like that. What if there was a semblance of existence in them, and these people are taking delight in just murking the fuck out of them and never once feeling any weight of killing something? And Bub gives you that. All of a sudden, it is kind of a thought, like, well, I would feel bad if something happened to poor Bub. And Bub is... I have a half Maine Coon, completely stupid cat with gigantic eyes, and he is Bub, like in a cat form. But it is something about him is just absolutely adorable in that sense of like, you're so stupid, you're going to hurt yourself. Like, and that is a character trait everybody uses in comics, movies. There's something that you love about a lovable goof, and weirdly enough, they gave it to a zombie.
And I think also in Dawn, there was one point where they were using tools too. I'm trying to remember.
Is there
what
a tool?
was. I think there was some tool.
There's always like a light hint that maybe there's something going on inside. And again, like as the audience, you revel so much in the fun violence of it because you don't feel bad in that sense. Like it's like, yay, they're already dead. Who gives a shit?
Whatever.
And it's like, well, what if there was a movie where it was flipped?
So in the beginning, Frankenstein's giving Bub stuff like a Stephen King novel. Nice little plug there for something that they liked, and stuff like that. But as things progress, he's giving him increasingly more dangerous shit.
Yeah, I always get wigged out with the shaving scene where he like starts to shave himself and starts cutting at his own dead skin. I'm always like, it's like it's just uncomfortable to watch.
I think every man who's had to shave his face has had a nightmare at least once of just carving your face off,
just like taking a cheek off. Yeah, 100%. So Rhodes gets introduced to Bub, and he's not impressed by this. He's like, "Is this the fucking bullshit you guys are doing? Like, this is supposed to? What the fuck is this? Like, it does like tricks." And, it tells the scientist again, reiterates, like, look, motherfuckers, like, start results or heads are going to roll. And and then this becomes, again, the relationship between the scientist and the military is because Frankenstein is killing so many zombies and, like, going through so many of them so quickly, they have to go out and they have to keep getting them. And we saw this when they came back to the base earlier with Miguel, where he almost let a zombie get one of the other military guys. And then this time... he is again exhausted and goes back with Rickles and Steele, and Sarah jumps in to help, and then everything goes wrong. He gets bit, and then this is what sets off the chain reaction of the rest of the movie. As they chop off his arm, again, great effect. But this is the now the toppling house of cards that we have been dealt. And so after that, then this is where we get into the whole thing with Miguel runs and he's got something on his mind. That's to get upstairs to hit the elevator button to bring Hell down into the bunker. And then this also includes Rhodes killing Frankenstein and murdering him in front of Bub, which also sets Bub off.
Okay, so I got a question here. Miguel seemed like one of the cooler people in this. You know, he does get bit and they have to amputate his arm, but he seemed like one of the cooler people. Now, he liked at least the guys in the RV and
he was dating Sarah. Yeah, like
Sarah
they had a
and
relationship.
Why do you think he goes off the deep end and just decides to let them die too? Like to let all the zombies in. This is the one part that I was never really clear what his motivation was right at that point in this thing. You know, did he just go crazy? What happened? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of like set it up throughout the movie that he is not completely stable. There's a bunch of stuff where like he snaps at Sarah for being strong and he's not, so fucking what, and their relationship has issues because of it. And you just kind of get a hint that like Miguel is just kind of over all this. And I think maybe at that point, Miguel is just like, I'm done. This is done. We're all done. And just kind of goes mad. And
it's kind of
takes
a murder-suicide
out.
route. I think it's just that. It's like, well, we're just all going to end and call it a day.
Yeah. But
he definitely, like, through the movie, I felt like you can tell pretty early he's unstable. Like, he is that unfortunate.
The elevator scene with all the zombies coming down.
Fucking awesome.
It's so great.
Yeah.
And there's so many, like, there's like a band major zombie.
Yeah.
There's a clown zombie.
I feel at this point it was like everybody had a wrestling gimmick.
Yeah, everybody's a pro wrestler.
It's a battle royal.
It is
happening as it comes down. Yeah,
the ring is descending into the bunker. One of like it cracks me. The one dude takes a bump. He falls off the thing. Like it's not even on the ground. He steps forward and fucking eats it. And I'm like, that's good. That's quality. So then everybody kind of figures out that like, oh shit, everything is going down now. And this is where the military guys get their just desserts by being just overran by zombies. And again, it's just exactly what you think it would be, where it's, look, you have guns and that'll last for so long, but eventually you cannot stop this never ending tide of humanity that's coming at you. It's going to eat you. And holy fuck, guys, do we see some disturbing special effects here?
Yeah. I will say we were talking about Don and how he didn't shoot himself in the head. And then Day, big boy in the military, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, Steel,
yeah. He takes himself out. And again, it's just like he succumbed to his nihilism. Like, I mean, again, probably the smartest thing to do at that point. Yeah, fuck that. I'm not getting my guts eaten out while I'm slowly dying. But it was an interesting kind of, this guy gave up. Well, this guy still tried to get away, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a nice callback. But yeah, those scenes... I mean, that's as much as there's a moral message, there's also just the horror fiends that are like, fuck yeah, I want to watch some gory shit. And once those come, they came hard. You know?
I think that there's also like, at this time, this is toward the tail end of the Cold War, and we were still invading like Grenada and like El Salvador and all these places where like we never did learn the lessons of Vietnam, which is that like armies can fight other armies. Armies cannot fight populations, you know, and you know, that's what you get with like the zombies overrunning things. You can have an army, and granted, this is just a little part of an army, but it symbolizes the army in general. It's not going to be able to hold out against an entire population if they don't. You're not going to be hailed as liberators when you go to the Middle East to sign and invade some country and be like, okay, we're going to kill the guy that's in charge. Well, there's 20 other guys waiting to take over, you know?
Power vacuum.
Yeah. And just seeing then like as the military like is taken out, like we do get to see our heroes escape and get on the helicopter, and we get two versions of this. So one version, there's hands of zombies that come out of the helicopter, and it gets Sarah, and then it turns out just like before when she was dreaming, it was in their dream, and now she wakes up on a beach, and it's her and Bill and John, and they've survived this thing. And I don't know. I kind of wish we didn't get that hope at the end, because I do like with Day just how much nihilism it is and how much they realize how bad the situation they are in is. But there is the happy ending where it's like, well, they got out, and it's the people that you like.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a happy ending. I like the happy ending.
Yeah, I was okay with that. I mean, we got enough nihilism in the other two. Like, we can have one that's...
But there is post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, she's still going to be having those nightmares forever.
100%. No matter what beach she is living on, she is definitely going to have a terrifying sleep the rest of her life.
And the thing about Romero is, like, with each of these, it's like, I still want to see where he's going to go next with this, you know? And that's what I was like at the end of that. I'm like, yeah, they're on an island, but what's going to happen next, you know? Is a ship of zombies going to crash into the island? What's going to happen in the, in the future when he gets around to doing another one, you know?
Which would be a while away, which is a bummer. Because I'm with you. I do like that Romero was constantly exploring this world of what it could be. And every time he did it, I was interested. I was like, oh, this is like, but all three of these movies, I'm like, I like what you're doing here.
No, I mean, I think there's a reason why they're classics, again, considered classics, especially with horror people. And again, like I said earlier, he's not my favorite director or anything like that, but I can't deny that those movies are excellent for so many reasons. So,
all right, before we transition, any more thoughts on Day?
I think, it's a good parody of the Rambo Reagan 80s. Yeah. I think that it's a social commentary. Seeing Bub salute at the very end. We saw him salute one time before, so we get the feeling, oh, this guy used to be a soldier, and so, there's just so many philosophical issues that come up with this one in particular, that it's just like, I think every time I view it, it's like a different movie. Like, I'm taking something else away from it. Like, I love Dawn, and Night is a classic. The thing about this one is it's different every time I watch it.
I think, again, this kind of goes back to when you first watch these movies. I watched this in my early mid-20s. I was doing like stage shows with a punk rock band that did horror. Everything was horror themed. And I just remembered, like, we watched it on one of our nights when they weren't playing or whatever. And so, like, it's interesting to watch, like, again, like, there's a very large social commentary, and if you're like a film person and things like that, you take it in. But with these guys, it was like they just wanted to watch people get fucked up and get torn in half and eat guts. And it is wild because it can kind of fit both roles. Like, someone who just wants to watch it's a good intro film for like someone who's not ready for like the Guinea Pig Diaries, or like, Cannibal Camp Out, like really fucked up shit. This is a good, like, well, what is my, how far can I go in a movie and not want to vomit myself?
Yeah, well, I mean, the punk rock that I grew up with at the time I saw this in like the mid 80s was very anti-Reagan. There was Dead Kennedys, and right now while we're recording this, I'm wearing a Circle Jerks shirt, and there's like, there's a song where the singer's like, ha ha ha, you're all gonna die, and you voted for that guy, and like, and there was like a Reagan Youth was banned, and it was like those two things, punk rock and sort of like the anti-Reagan thing, were like one and the same anyway. So the same people that wanted to see people get fucked up, it's like, this was like one of the perfect movies. We'll talk about another like zombie film that really touched base with the punk rock crowd here in a minute, but this was definitely, for me, that's the crowd I saw this with. And then we're like, let's hit the video store, let's go find Dawn, let's go find Night,
All right, since we're talking the 80s, we're talking specifically 1985 when Day of the Dead came out. Another zombie movie came out that year, and that is Return of the Living Dead. So this is the whole John Russo-Romero split. When they went, Romero got the Dead name, Russo got the Living Dead name. And so we end up here. The Return of the Living Dead is directed by Dan O'Bannon. And this thing is different, way different from like it is and it isn't. There's a Venn diagram here, but this does a bunch of stuff that you don't see in the Romero movies.
Okay, so first of all, we should say that Russo, being the primary writer on Night, actually did a novelization and trademarked or copyrighted Night of the Living Dead, and so that's how he got Living Dead. And so this offshoot, the second offshoot, we already mentioned the Italian offshoot of this series. This offshoot is the Living Dead series is usually what it's referred to. Yeah, and Dan O'Bannon, we talked about him on my podcast when we talked about Dark Star. He's an interesting guy, and he's got a sort of offbeat sense of humor that one of the reasons I liked Dawn was because of that pie fight scene. But Romero is not, comedy's not really in his blood. He's too dark. That's not the case here. This is, we get into some straight up comedy situation here. And one of the first things that happens in this film, and I haven't watched it in a long time, is a barrel from from I think an army vehicle or something like that falls off, and they've got these undead contained in them. And this particular one, they generally refer to it as like Tar Baby or something like that. It's completely
Tarman.
Tarman.
Yeah.
And it is freaky looking. Like this one starts out and you're like, yeah. And this movie feels like just like a lot of fun right from the beginning.
Yeah, this is pretty much everything I love in a movie. I'm a comic book writer and illustrator, and my goal is to make shit as fun as this movie. It is one of my, I watch, like you were just saying, like I watched this movie probably way too many times. Like I love all the Return of the Living Dead movies, but this is. Tarman is amazing. Leona Quigley is amazing. Like this is my first introduction to Leona Quigley, which, again, as an ass man, which I'm very open about. It was a great introduction to her, and she was a punk rock girl dancing naked on coffins.
She plays a character named Trash, and
absolutely.
Linnea Quigley, she's like one of the great scream queens. She only did a few movies. Like I remember in this, and I remember in like Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama, and Demons. I think she was in Demons too, wasn't she?
She was in Night of the Demons.
Night of the Demons.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Night of the Demons.
Yeah.
But man, is she's this amazing, charismatic blonde woman who only did a few films, but like just you can't stop looking at her. And then she does a striptease in a fucking graveyard. Like that is like, punk rock wet dream right there, and yeah,
definitely one of the most famous things about this is it is like, again, full frontal nudity, Quigley. You get a punk rock soundtrack. Again, humor in the film. I like the relationship between the guy who runs the warehouse, and like it's explained to the new kid on the job who the punks are coming to pick up, like how the place works and all that.
Yeah,
like it's a fun movie.
Yeah. And I was going to mention the soundtrack because it just kicks off with like that 45 Graves song, like, do you want to party? It's party time. And I'm like, yes. And it's got like Surfin' Dead by the Cramps, which another track that I really loved. You can only find it on this. They rarely ever did it live, and it's not on any of their other stuff. But, when the first time I heard, Lux Interior, like, ooh, my favorite brain soup, cream of nowhere, and then it kicks in and I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck that means, but that sounded cool as shit, and it goes whole hog on that. Some other things in this that I thought that really stuck out to me, like when I watched it, was like there's Bert and Ernie. Like there's a character named Bert, and there's a character named Ernie, and there's other like weird references to other things like Sesame Street and stuff like that in it. And of course, the classic send more
paramedics, send more cops.
But at the end, it's send more cops. When we were punk rockers, so we hated cops. So we're like, when that line happened, they're like, said, like, basically the zombies actually talk, and like what they like realize that they can get on the CB radio and like radio for more stuff, and one goes, "Send more cops," and we're like, yeah.
Yeah, this is a thing here where like there is a whole difference between these zombies and the Romero zombies. They can talk. They're hard as fuck to kill.
Hard as fuck to kill. They're almost impossible to kill. They're smart, like enough to talk and to organize themselves. And again, to realize like all we got to do is talk into this microphone, and we're going to get more food. And then we build up more of an army that's going to go, try to get in here. The movie it is just so fun in so many ways. And like again, like Tarman is just an incredible design because he's just those big bulbous fucking eyes, and him just screaming brains at it. It's like fuck that. And then there's one of the known things in this is there's a half cut dog that is like wiggling and shit, and it's just just perfection in so many ways. It's such just a fun ass film.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but just talking about it makes me want to go watch it now.
You should.
Like,
it's great.
When they interrogate the one lady zombie, that's just like she's just basically like lungs and a bit of like a spinal column.
Yeah.
And they're asking like, why do you do this? Like, and she tells them, she's like trying to explain the pain of this and the
pain of the hunger and being dead.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking good movie. I mean, again, it like created like this weird empathy of like, oh, it is kind of like shitty for these creatures, and they are doing what they have to do to exist. It just sucks for the humans,
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's also in Louisville.
yes, that's true too. And also, again, you've been talking a bunch about Reagan stuff throughout this. We get that as well with like, who's the solution? The military.
Yeah.
And what's their solution? Blow up everything.
So I won't say that the punk rockers come off very great in this, but they seemed more realistic than a lot of punk rockers we got on film before this period.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm like, I know a dude like that,
Yeah.
No, there was a point in time, especially like in action movies, where like punk rock dudes were just like they were default like characters that got beat up. Like they were just like random enemies that you would put into a film with ninjas, or you put in a film with.
It's always a video game. It's Double Dragon. There's a guy with the mohawk, a guy with the chain, a guy with the leather jacket.
100%.
We figured it out. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, and in New York Ninja, also that was like one of the things I enjoyed watching. It was like there was a lot of that.
Yeah, there's
like,
a guy with a jockstrap.
Yeah,
It's still my favorite New York Ninja punk.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, and I liked horror punk music like the Misfits and stuff like that before this, but I think this was my first introduction to 45 Grave. When I heard that track, and I'm like, a hardcore band with a female singer? I gotta find this band, And yeah, I mean, it's you know what? It may not be as heavy as Romero, but it is definitely worth your time.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I think that's the key note for again, this is like the movie that like when you get to turn your brain off and just enjoy something stupid.
Yes.
And Return 2 I liked as well. I don't want to get into that, but so I've never gone past the second one. I don't think I've seen Return 3, but
I'm going to go on note. Return 3 is one of my loves of life.
all right, I'll put it on my to watch list.
I have seen 3, and they suckered me in with the cover, and then I was like, oh,
yeah,
obviously.
well, I mean, I was a teenager when I first saw that, and that cover as a teenage Jaimie was like, oh, there's a hot chick with a bunch of piercings, zombie chick. I'm sold.
In a series that does have nudity in it.
Yeah, sold.
Check, please.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and rent that for 2 nights, sir. Yeah,
But I will say I enjoyed 2 also. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting series. It like whereas Romero would like make these kind of standalone movies. The Living Dead series goes on to kind of do that as well with some of its sequels. Because in the end, a lot of the stuff is like, well, we can't retell this because we nuked them in the first one. And
Yeah.
So way back at the beginning, you asked on the copyright issue if that was a good or a bad thing or whatever. And just because that gives us this, I'm going to say it was a good thing because I think that if it had stayed under one person, Romero would have retained control. We would never have gotten this film. Yeah.
and
it is a yin and yang to each other. You kind of, again, you can enjoy 2 zombie films that are completely different in a lot of tonal ways.
Yeah,
and enjoy them.
This and Day get released in the same year, and they could not be more like apart. Like,
no, not at all.
They do have the crossover of flesh-eating cannibal zombies that are here to kill you,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of unique shit in each one that makes it its own movie. It makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it really sets the stage for the horror comedies that would follow this. Like, I'm a big fan of Stuart Gordon's like Reanimator series.
Yes.
And I don't think that would have existed had it not been for this.
Now, see, Stuart Gordon's actually my favorite director. Reanimator is
Well,
like
maybe in a year when I'm back in Cincinnati, the three of us got to meet and do
we'll just gush
Reanimator,
over.
Bride of Reanimator.
I'm
and
okay
Beyond
completely
Reanimator.
with that. Yeah, we'll just gush over Stuart Gordon. I'll cry, but it'll be fine. So.
Yeah, Jeffrey Combs. Oh my God. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, look, guys, as we wind down, I don't know, like, where does Romero sit in the world of horror? Like, what's his overall impact on the industry, I guess? Because it's just like, for me, it's just zombies have just become a thing now that just are everywhere, and they appear everywhere, and they're in all fiction. And Romero had a big part of making that happen. Like, it's just spread all over the place.
You want to go first?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, he's probably definitely at one of the heads of the table. And and to be fair, Romero's done other movies that are horror as well. I mean, he did Martin. He's touched on a lot of different bases.
The Crazies.
The Crazy,
great.
yeah. It's not like it was the only thing that he ever did. It's just obviously it kind of overshadows a lot of the other things he did. Which again, probably a part of that is the not having a copyright thing, and what other people have created. I mean, Walking Dead would not exist if it wasn't for this. Every zombie movie does take from him. It's very obvious of that. I mean, it's to the point where you can't get away from that. So no matter what, I mean, he and his creations, or his part of those creations, will be in the history of horror films. And it really was like that turning part from the atomic age. Like that Night of the Living Dead is definitely that line in the sand that changed how the tonal shift of horror at that time. So
I think that when you talk about the great horror directors, you're going to be talking about like Craven, Cronenberg, Whale, Browning, John Carpenter. You're going to get pretty far down the list before you get to Romero. But as I said earlier, because of Night of the Living Dead, that one film alone, if he had made no other film, that film is like such an important film in the history of horror that I think that would get him a place at the table.
Yeah, I agree back to what you were saying earlier about the cultural impact of like the places he's been. And as you were talking about that, like I started thinking about like the Dead Rising series that exists on the video game where like it's set in a mall. And it's just like, yep.
Well, that's, yeah.
Still to this day, like it's just something that it's like this works and it's fun and fuck, people love this movie.
yeah, I mean, even when it's funny because we were talking about like the traditional Haitian zombie, like Bela Lugosi white zombie and things like that. Like, but if you went to a 15-year-old kid today and said zombie, and if you could picture what's in their brain, granted, it's probably something they saw off Walking Dead or something like that, but that image is still processed and was created off the images of Night of the Living Dead. Like, we don't think of like how zombies looked in those films, nothing like that. It's video games, comic books, whatever pop culture you want to use, the imagery, the ideas and stuff still generally are just taken from those films in one form or another.
And
out
really,
of media.
In 3 films, so 6 hours worth of film time, almost every film that has come since in the zombie genre, whether it's World War Z or whether it's Walking Dead or whatever it is, you can watch it and they're like, that's Romero.
Yeah.
Oh, they got that from Romero. Oh, they did that in one of the 3 films. Like, you can find, it's like people are just, he packed so many ideas into 3 films.
The Romero rule set of like, if you get bit, you turn. If you want to kill these things, you got to shoot them in the head. You know, like them's the rules. Everybody understands it out the gate, and you know where it is. Are you guys still down to watch zombie movies? Like, or is it, or are you to the point where like you're just it's oversaturated? There's just been too many of them. You got zombie burnout.
So I'll go first this time. Since I host a film podcast and my to watch, I'm not limited to the horror genre. I watch the whole range from art films to independent films, from dramas to comedies to and I'm not only going to be on this earth for so long. Like, I have a spreadsheet of almost 10,000 films I want to watch, like right now. And so I'm not going to get to watch them all. So I think I do have a little bit of zombie fatigue right now, just like I have superhero fatigue. I'm like, but does that mean I'm not going to come back to it? No, I'm going to come back to it. And it's just like, and I'll definitely come back to it if someone comes up with something new to say or new to do with it, which there's not been a lot of innovation in it. It's really feeling stagnated.
I think you kind of hit the note with the superhero thing.
Yeah.
It's like somebody figured out a formula, and this is the only formula that we're allowed to do. And with the zombie thing, it's kind of the same thing. If it's a good story, I don't care what, again, I always compare to superheroes to Westerns. Like, you don't see a lot of Westerns anymore because they kind of had their time and all that. But every once in a while, someone will put out a Western and it'll be badass. And it's like, same with superhero films. And I think it's same with zombies. It's like, if someone comes up with something interesting and if somehow it comes across my trailer shows up or somebody tells me about it and it has a good pitch, I'll check it out, of course. But until then, I'm not searching out zombie films. And, I love films from like, I try to intake as much as I can of any type of film and genre, but horror is definitely my natural place to go. And, but zombies are like arguably one of the last in line. So it really has to be a good pitch.
Yeah. If a visionary director like Tarantino is like, I'm going to make a spaghetti Western, and we all go see it because we know it's going to be different from if suddenly Tarantino's down to his last film, he's like, I'm going to make a zombie film. I know that's going to be a good zombie film, so I'm going to go see
I'm going to try. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel zombie films are kind of like when you get into like metal, where it's like there's a lot of it and there's some good of it, but there's a lot of bad of it.
Yes.
And a lot of it's trying to filter out the bad to get to the good. Again, with like, as we've kind of all said, with zombie movies, we've seen it, we've done it. Give me something new.
Yeah.
Train to Busan, I thought was like a really cool way to do that. Like that gave me something different in a zombie movie. I was like, all right, I'm checking this out. Or was it The Girl with the Gifts? Or The Girl with the Gift, where it was
all the gifts,
yeah. Like I thought that was kind of a cool take, or even the Quarantine movie that happened, where it was like they were sort of zombies, and that was based off another movie.
Wreck. Yeah, I liked that as a good found footage.
Was that the French? Was it Spanish?
Film,
Okay,
yeah. Like I think that's cool. I think okay, if you can take the zombie and you can now add a new dynamic to it, it's great. But I'm really good on just seeing waves of zombies taking over a building and biting people.
And I do kind of feel like it is more of a possibility to see it come from a different culture who's going to have a different cultural aspect to add to that we just aren't familiar with.
And there's one other thing that I'll see. I've been very heavily influenced by story, and I've said, like, have something to say. But even if you don't have something to say, if you can do it in a really polished way, like, not a good movie, not a great movie, but I like the first Resident Evil just because the design, like it's the high tech design of the Umbrella Factory and all the like DNA helix recurring motifs. It's like they hired the best graphic designers ever to do that. So it's like, it may not be make a lot of sense or whatever, but like the look of it, oh my God, is so cool. It's like eye candy all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and later what the Resident Evil series turns into, where it does start to meld the world of superheroes meet zombies. And again, doing something different than what we've seen in other zombie movies so far. Where it's like, okay, I see where you've carved out your own thing. Like, you're kind of Fast and Furious zombies. That's cool.
There was, by the way, Robert Kirkman, who actually was the writer of Walking Dead, worked for Marvel and did Marvel Zombies, which was a comic series. In the original series, because it was taking the superhero tropes into zombie tropes and kind of meshing them and playing with them, was a really, really good series. And a part of me is like, I would rather watch that right now on the Disney Channel than any of the other shit that they constantly superhero stuff. Then I was like, that would be a good take. I would try that. If they want to pitch it, Disney, come on.
Hell yeah. Well, look, guys, before we get out of here, Jaimie, can you let people know where they can find you out online?
I'm on Instagram. I'm lazy anymore and I don't post a lot, so sorry. But it's Jaimie, Jaimie _Filer, Filer.
Eric, how about you, man?
So the only Instagram I have is the Geek Channel 8 one. I'm Gen X, so I'm of course the old school Facebook, and like I feel like Gen X is Facebook and like millennials are Instagram, and like post millennials are TikTok. So there's a Facebook group for Geek Channel 8. It's like the Geek Channel 8 fan club, but it originally started as a private group, and they will not let me. Facebook will not let me make it public. So you got to kind of ask or be invited to it. So if you just request, we approve everyone, so there's that.
It's kind of cool though. It's like a speakeasy. Like you gotta know the code to get in.
You knock twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just called the Geek Channel 8 fan club. Yeah, that's really all. I mean, I don't really publicly post a lot on social media, outside of my friends. Yeah, so.
Hell yeah. Listener, you can find me at Neil to Know on Instagram. That's where all my links and stuff are at. And on top of that, thanks for listening to the show. If you got a friend that's like zombie stuff, share the episode with them. And that's basically the way the podcast grows. Algorithms, not really that great. Word of mouth is awesome. So if you can spread it out to your friends, it makes me happy. What's up, Eric?
I wanted to plug real quick that Tank's going to come on, and we're going to talk about Jason X.
Hell yeah.
Too, on Geek Channel 8. I wanted to get that in before we...
Getting ready to go to space.
Yep. Classic film.
That's the follow-up to Moonraker. So
the obvious transition.
Well, it's you take the franchise into space.
Now I kind of want to see the fan fiction of Moonraker and Jason X together. Jaws fights Jason X. That's unstoppable forces.
That's what we came to see in space. Listener, thanks for listening. Guys, thanks for stopping by. Peace.
Peace.